Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump pausing tariffs on Canada at the 11th hour. What progress has been made and how China comes into play. Results are in for the Florida primaries with a major upset for the DSA in the House race. How lawmakers and the president are reacting to the nominees. A former top advisor to Dr. Anthony Fauci admits to conspiring to hide government records related to COVID research. The prison time he could face. Amazon is dramatically expanding its drone delivery service. How soon packages could arrive and what customers will pay. A U.S. Air Force flight bound for Antarctica is forced to turn back. The Russian missile warning that disrupted its journey. Significant changes are taking place in both Russia and Ukraine. Ukrainians keep protesting their government while Russia is dealing with major financial problems.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. President Trump putting a last-minute pause on new tariffs against Canada as he cites a potential trade deal. It comes as the administration has been seeking to protect American industries from unfair trade practices by countries including China. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao. Iris, good afternoon. What's behind the latest pause?
Good afternoon to you too, Don. President Trump at the 11th hour last night putting a pause to 50% of new tariffs against Canadian goods that would total about roughly $28 billion worth of them. President Trump saying that upon the finalization of documents, they now have a good deal. Here's him speaking earlier this morning with reporters. Watch.
Our farmers were paying tremendous tariffs into Canada, and those tariffs are going to be totally eviscerated, down to zero. So subject to the finalization of documents, we have a deal with Canada.
And those tariffs were set to go into effect at midnight, but Trump reversed it last minute. President Trump also saying that the latest breakthrough comes after intense talks between the two sides in the days leading up to yesterday, and then also a direct and a good phone call, according to President Trump, between him and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. In a new statement, meanwhile, the Canadian Prime Minister is saying that substantial progress has been made, although there is important work still to be done. Specifically, the U.S. Trade Representative in a new statement saying that in this potential deal that he says he feels optimistic about, it would include, for example, comprehensive market access for all American goods, as well as digital trade alignment and economic security commitments that would all benefit American industries and American workers. Now, all of this comes after last month, President Trump threatened to hit a 50% tariffs against Canadian goods. For example, its alcohol, hockey equipment, cement, as well as dairy products. The administration has been criticizing Canada for treating American industries, in particular auto industries, unfairly, also singling out China and Canada in particular for being the only two countries that retaliated against American tariffs. Let's take a look.
So I've got two countries in the world that have retaliated against the United States for trade measures. The People's Republic of China and Canada. That's not the kind of company you really want to be running in.
And that was the trade representative speaking earlier this week. Of course, now all eyes are on if this current pause of tariffs for only 3 days will actually pave the way for an actual trade agreement between the U.S. and Canada going forward. Back to you.
And Iris, as well, the president this morning just unveiled another construction project taking place at the White House. What is it for?
Sure. So it's an actually impromptu invitation to the press all of a sudden for them to go out to the South Lawn and join the president as he unveils this new and ongoing project going on at the White House, which is to add a helipad at the South Lawn to, of course, make it easier for helicopters and Marine One to land. But the president saying that there's also another purpose. Here's what he said. Watch.
This will be much better for state arrival. And in fact, instead of being on grass now, they'll be using that almost like a table. They can have events on it. They can have people go there for cocktails and then walk to the ballroom after that's finished.
And the president really showed how much personal touches and personal input that he put into this project. For example, by talking about details such as the radial cut of the granite, as well as getting rid of the potholes, etc. And President Trump was also putting his own name on a giant slab of granite that he says will be flipped and also later actually laid into the helipad at the White House. Back to you.
Okay, Iris, thank you for the report. The Pentagon says the U.S. military remains fully prepared to take on any adversary. Undersecretary of War Michael Duffy addressing readiness on Fox News.
President Trump, Secretary Hegseth, Chairman Kaine have all stated clearly we are ready. The U.S. military can defeat any threat at the time and place of our choosing, and I think that remains true today.
His comments come as the Iran war and other global conflicts drive up demand for missiles and munitions. Duffy says the administration is focused on rebuilding the military and revitalizing the defense industrial base. He says the Pentagon is ramping up partnerships with contractors to speed up missile production. And he took aim at the previous administration, saying, quote, "We're making up for lost time," after what he called years of underinvestment in the industrial base. And results are in for yesterday's Florida primaries. This was the last state to see a significant push by the DSA before the general election in November, and the results are shedding more light on voter sentiment. Let's go live to NTD's Fiona G. Fiona, what are the results telling us?
Well, Don, a major upset for the DSA in Florida's 25th District House race, with Representative Jerry Moskowitz winning over DSA-backed candidate Oliver Larkin. A major point of contention during that race was Israel. Larkin, a major proponent of ending U.S. military aid to the country, with Moskowitz being a vocal supporter of Israel. AIPAC actually released a congratulations last night to a slew of candidates who are pro-Israel, including Moskowitz. Now, the gubernatorial race in Florida turned out pretty much how we'd expected, with Representative Byron Donalds clinching the GOP nomination with President Trump's endorsement. And on the Democrat side, we saw former Republican turned Democrat David Jolly taking that spot. Florida also had a special primary race for the Senate position that was left behind by Secretary of State Marco Rubio when he went off to that position as Secretary of State. We saw there that Senator Ashley Moody, she won the GOP nomination, again with President Trump's backing. On the Democrat side, it was DSA candidate Angie Nixon who won. President Trump weighed in on that win, saying he believes that Nixon will, quote, go down to certain defeat at the hands of Ashley Moody. And this is a sentiment we see repeated across the country, in that they're saying DSA candidates may be winning their primaries, but they face a huge issue of electability when it comes to the general election in November. Senator Moody also weighed in, saying she believes this is not just a race for a Senate seat, this is a race for the future of the country. Watch.
There are people right now that are signing up proudly for a socialist party. Many would call it a communist party. And they are bending on everything that this country stands for to join this radical fervor.
And up north in the Senate race in Alaska, we're still waiting for the final numbers to come out, but AP has called a win for incumbent Republican Senator Dan Sullivan and former Democratic Representative Mary Peltola. Remember, Alaska has that all-party primary, which means that the top four vote-getters, regardless of party affiliation, will be advancing to the general election. Now, we saw that the second Dan Sullivan, because there is a second Dan Sullivan running in this race, he's trailing behind in a distant third place right now, but only around 80% of votes are in, and AP has not called the race for the third and fourth places in Alaska. So that's what we're looking for next. Don, back to you.
Okay, Fiona, thank you. President Donald Trump said today he had urged GOP Representative Corey Mills to drop out of his Florida primary race. The embattled Republican lost yesterday to former news anchor Ryan Elijah. In a Truth Social post today, the president saying, quote, "I told Congressman Corey Mills of Florida, a friend of mine, to get out of the race, but he wouldn't listen. He thought he could win, so who can blame him?" The president adds, "We now have a great candidate, Ryan Elijah, running in his place. Ryan stands for everything MAGA and is respected by all. He has my complete and total endorsement." Results of closely watched primaries are in, so joining us now to discuss is Angie Wong, Republican strategist and political columnist. And we have Robin Bureau, Democratic strategist and former Obama regional campaign director. First of all, good afternoon to you both. Thank you very much to being here on the show today. And Angie, if I may, I would like to start with you today. And just your overall thoughts here on the Florida governor race. Brian Donalds won the GOP nomination decisively. What do you think here? How much of his win is due to Trump's endorsement?
I think all of it was due to Trump's endorsement. I was with Byron Donalds for some of his campaigning, and quite honestly, most voters knew him as the Trump-endorsed candidates. You know, it wasn't until much later in the campaign that Byron started talking a lot more about his policies and what he wants to do for Florida, once that was a little bit more defined. But early on, I think most voters knew him as the Trump pick, and that's what he ran on, and it worked for him very well. The other races, they were pretty much predictable as well. The one thing I would say would be my main takeaway from yesterday's Florida primaries is that you can't buy Florida. We saw Angie Nixon on the Democrat side win. She was outspent 15-1 by a Democrat opponent, and she still won it. So we've seen this in other races, Florida 19 as well. We had a couple of billionaires there. They couldn't buy the race. It ultimately came down to who was most authentic.
Okay, Robin, what do you think? Any initial thoughts you have?
Angie's analysis is on point there. Authenticity really did make a huge difference in this election. Also, Florida wasn't having carpetbaggers. It's not going to work really in any state. So that has something to do with it. I will say I'm not that surprised about what happened there in Florida with the DSA candidate winning, even though she was outspent 15-1. She had a really great ground game. And honestly, Alexander Vindman came off as arrogant. He didn't even acknowledge that she was competing against him. He was campaigning for the general election. It's rookie mistake on his part. You've got to win the primary first. That's elemental.
So, Angie, you said one thing that Donald's win, Brian Donald's win, is completely due to Trump's endorsement. Is Florida's GOP becoming more defined by MAGA? Does Donald's victory suggest that the next generation of governor leadership in Florida is more closely tied to Trump?
Well, Trump's endorsement is still the gold standard here in Florida. So I think that's why he had to walk back the Corey Mills endorsement. Katarina Louf, we're not entirely sure what happened there. I thought she was going to win that after Trump's endorsement for sure. Didn't happen for her. But Trump still pretty much, knows the game here, and especially Susie Wiles. Remember, his chief of staff used to run Florida campaigns, right? So she knows all the nooks and crannies on how to win, what's going to win. I think President Trump is absolutely safe. Byron Donalds, what he must do now is actually to kind of remove himself away from just being in Trump's spotlight and in his inner circle. He needs to now prove that he can really govern this state. I looked at the heat map of where Byron Donalds won. He won down here where I am in Miami, especially in Lee County where he's from, and that's near Naples. But that's just southern Florida. Up north by the Panhandle, he did not take it. He barely won by 20%. So he has a lot of work to do in northern Florida and maybe also central Florida. And that might not be necessarily full-on Trump country as it is here in South Florida. So I think you'll see that Byron Donalds, his messaging will change a little bit more. In fact, we saw it last night in his victory speech. He mentioned the word affordability at least 6 times that I had heard, maybe more. So I think he's going to now try to carve out more of the young voters, more of the moderates, and maybe even some Democrats, because he really needs to address that, especially in North Florida.
So, Robin, what do you see here? Has Florida politics changed in any way, shape, or form since 2016?
Trump's endorsement still makes a big difference, as Angie alluded to, but it's not a golden ticket. You still have to really work for to win the election on your own merit. It just can't. The endorsement isn't good enough, as we saw. And like I said, the carpetbagger thing isn't going to work really in Florida. It's not going to work anywhere. You've got to establish residency in that location and be there for a while before people really take you seriously as a candidate that's invested in their local politics. Because at the end of the day, Don, all politics is still local.
All right, so Angie, how do you think he's going to fare against David Jolly in November? How's Byron Donalds going to do?
I'm watching this. I wasn't so concerned, but David Jolly, you can't discount him entirely. Same thing with Angie Nixon. You can't discount them because now what you're going to have is a Democrat machine coming down in Florida going, okay, we really need to win something here. We saw them doing this with District 25 of the congressional race. You saw Bernie Sanders handpicking a candidate, Oliver Larkin. You saw Rashida Tlaib also here on Friday. She was hosting a DSA rally for 300 invites only party, and it was very successful. But you also see Ron Emanuel, who moved into Miami and Miami Beach. So we know something is up. We know Democrats really, really want to take Florida back. And likely it's going to be with David Jolly and it's going to be with Angie Nixon. They're going to be pouring in zillions of dollars into these races. This is going to cost the GOP a couple of dollars.
Okay, so Robin, Jolly versus Donald, what do you think?
That's going to be a tough one. Byron's got to really have his ducks in a row here because this is going to be a very monumental race just in general all across the country. Democrats are favored to pick up some seats in the House. I don't know how we're going to do in the Senate yet. The jury's still out. And look, I just want to say this while I've got the floor. All polling, this shows that polling is drastically off still. Every time the pollsters get it wrong, they adjust their metrics. But what they failed to account for right now was the momentum. And I don't know how you track that. The sentiment was really behind the Democrat here, the socialist, the DSA candidate. And it's just harder and harder and harder for the pollsters to adjust their metrics every season to the point where I don't know how they become relevant. I don't know how they stay relevant. I don't know how they're still getting paychecks, Don.
Yeah, and there was a story about a fake poll actually yesterday as well that I saw. Do you think, Angie, Democrats could gain ground in Florida? Do you think they could gain any traction?
So this is what I go back to. We saw lots of fake pollings, lots of fake websites, lots of fake news articles. And this is what I was thinking about because you had a lot of money pouring into yesterday's primaries. So much so that I couldn't believe that Florida voters could see through it all. I mean, look, Robin, he's a strategist as well. We know that lots of campaigns by polling. So when Median Strategies yesterday came out with a press release that says, hey, we made the whole thing up, it was just a social experiment. That happens a lot, especially in this game when it's all smoke and mirrors and building momentum. That's why I was quite surprised to see Angie Nixon go through because she might have used some of it, but she only had $1 million to work with on a statewide race. That's why I know that is authentic. That is not just ground game and some good luck and maybe a really bad opponent. That was truly authentic. So I'm not worried about that race. I don't think Angie Nixon really has a shot. But with the Democrat machine coming in and all that money being poured in, yeah, it's going to definitely run us for the money. I think that, we do have to be very cautious. We can't take anything for granted. Clearly, yesterday, the momentum was behind the Republican candidates. They came out in droves to vote on Election Day. I'd love to see it again come November 3rd. But Democrats, they see an opening. And I think the race to watch is Florida 25, because that stretches from Palm Beach into Broward into Miami. And they really want that seat. We saw Ron Emanuel lining that up for 2016 with the Hillary Clinton campaign. I think he's trying to do the same ground game, and that's what I'm watching.
Okay, Robin, what is the opening for Democrats?
Authenticity, just like Angie said. And that's where the DSA candidate had the edge here. She came off as authentic, whereas Vindman, like I said, didn't even acknowledge her existence and was campaigning for the general election. So we have got to come off as authentic as possible, meet people where they're on the issues that matter to them, the issues that they're talking about at the kitchen table. And I want to say this, though. Hillary Clinton brought up a really good point this past week that Republicans have a good attack line right now about the party becoming way too socialist, that's going to be used against Democrats this election cycle to scare people into voting for Republicans. Now, that may very well work, but Republicans have to bring something to the table as far as what they offer. It can't just be about fear of Democratic candidates and the DSA.
Okay, let's talk a bit more about the DSA candidate, Florida 25. Moskowitz defeating Larkin, and our reporter just now earlier saying this is a devastating loss for DSA. Angie, what do you think here? What does this indicate?
Well, I'm surprised that Bernie Sanders would bring on a Democrat socialist in a district that is heavily filled with a Jewish population, as well as a Cuban and South and Central American community where they're fleeing communism, where they're fleeing the socialist regime. They know it didn't work. It stole all their money back in their homeland. And then to run a DSA candidate in that very district and hope for votes, I didn't think this was going to ever work. But then I'm thinking, well, maybe Bernie Sanders knows something that I don't. It's still a very blue district. This is one of the newer districts that Ron DeSantis and with the help with a lot of Republicans and the courts redrew. So in Florida now, we have 4 new congressional districts, one of them being Florida 25. It is a little bit bluer than others. I think of all, on the East Coast anyway, of all the newer seats that were drawn, this would be the one that Democrats would want to take on. On the Republican side, we have Scott Singer, who is a local mayor here. I hope he gets some support because he does not have the same name recognition as Jared Moskowitz does. And I think Moskowitz is probably, his piggy bank's going to be a lot bigger than what Singer has. Singer has reportedly about 2 million. I know Mike Johnson has been talking about this race already, so we're hoping to see some national money committed to Florida 25. But the DSA, you know what? They're not leaving. They're here. They're on the college campuses. I see them all the time with their fold-out tables. They're signing up every single student that walks by. They have amazing ground game, a bigger mail-in ballot operation than I've ever seen, not even in New York when I was working those races. So they're trying to put real gains here, and they're looking for young politicians. And I think they have the formula. We can't ignore what they're doing, because it is working and the momentum is behind them, both from the Democratic Party as well as from the donor side. So it's something to worry about for Republicans.
So, Robin, when the Democratic establishment sees all the work that the DSA is doing, whether it's on campuses or whatever, what are they thinking?
They're not thinking, Don. I'll be completely honest with you. Go to the DNC website right now. If you look at their plan for the next year, it still links Kamala Harris's 2024 plan. It's a disaster. They have got to get up to speed, which is why the DSA is exploiting this opening, because, like Angie said, they just opened a permanent office right here in Atlanta, and they really are going to college campuses. They're on the ground organizing, and with youthful candidates who are exciting the public. And I want to say this, they're also got someone that's masterful with social media, because they make their posts very palatable to the public so that they go viral. And so people are very inclined to share these posts because it kind of taps into something that people are feeling. They may not even notice that it's a Democratic Socialist of America post. And they make all these things more palatable to the masses, and then they strike and say something like, we want to do away with the Supreme Court, do away with the U.S. Senate. These are crazy sounding things, but they exploit their opening when they've got one, Don.
Angie, do you think the DSA will ever replace the Democratic establishment?
Robin's absolutely right. I think that the DSA got the keys to the cars a long time ago. I think Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, they kind of let the young kids take over the grassroots operations of the DNC. And now those young kids have completely exploited all the voter lists, every single piece of data, and made it their own. So much so that the older establishment Democrats, they don't know what's going on anymore. And you clearly see the leadership just going, uh-oh, or did we give them too much? It's too late. They're winning seats all over the place. What I'm seeing, and why we're focusing on Michigan, Maine, Wisconsin, now Florida, these are battleground states. And I think that the DSA, along with AOC, they're looking at the electoral map going, do we have a pathway for 2028 to the White House? Because even if we don't win every single one of these battlegrounds, with DSA candidates, we have someone like Francesca Hong, who got very, very close to the gubernatorial seat, and she won 39% on about $1.1 million in her piggy bank. So we see that the DSA momentum is there, and that's all maybe AOC and her handlers want to see in order to see if they have a real pathway to the White House, because announcements will be made pretty much the morning after the midterm elections are over as to who's going to be running on that ticket. So, I think the momentum is behind them. I think that clearly Ken Martin, he's already said, let's find unity with the Democrat Socialist, because they really are the most exciting part of the Democrat Party right now, and they have the numbers. Whether or not they play well together, or if it's a unified thing, or it's a civil war, doesn't matter. DSA is going to be here for this cycle and maybe many more.
So, Robin, Angie says DSA has the keys to the car. Hypothetically speaking, if the DSA replaces the older Democratic establishment, what happens? What are the consequences? What does it mean for the party? What does it mean for the country?
We saw it last night, Don. There was already an anti-incumbency sentiment last night, and people are really tired of the status quo, really from both parties, but especially the Democratic Party. That's why our polling numbers are so abysmal right now in the Democratic Party. Look, President Trump's polling numbers aren't great either, but ours should be much better since his aren't that great, and they're not. Ours really are almost no better than President Trump's. So that's because of people like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, the old guard. So they have got to get with it, bring some fresh new ideas. And I'm just not seeing it. The posts that I'm seeing, the things that I get in my text messages are always from DSA candidates, from the mailing lists. They really are exploiting, like Angie said. They've got the keys to the car, Angie. But what I'm worried about is that I think they've been handed the keys to the kingdom.
Keys to the kingdom. Okay, I'll ask both of you one last question here. Angie, do you think we'll ever see the day where voters will be choosing between a socialist president and a Republican president?
I think you're going to see that in 2028. I think it's going to be a lot closer than you think. Again, we're just looking at the crystal ball at this time, but all of the stars are aligning for an AOC run. In fact, President Trump has even said she's going to be running. Look, there's intel all over the place. We see the maps. We see what states that they want. We see all the clear signs that there's going to be an announcement. Who's going to be running with her? That's maybe later on, but all the setup. I've been calling this the Bernie Sanders revenge, because remember how the Democratic Party squeezed him out of a presidential run. Robin, is it twice or three times that he got squeezed out, right? So he's right. So he's been lining up for this moment for a long time to get all those gatekeepers out of his way, and now to control the party. He's there, and it took him, about 10, 15 years, but he's there now. And I bet he's laughing. He's enjoying every bit of this. And now he gets to hand choose who gets to be maybe the next president, but certainly the Senate seats. We're looking at congressional seats. Remember, they started very small, just school board seats. They started with city council races. Look how they've graduated in a very short period of time.
Okay, just finally, Robin, is 2028 the year where voters are going to be choosing between a socialist America and the America that we used to know?
Yes, I think it's an experiment right now. And just like Angie said, I've been working in the party apparatus for so long, but I saw them 10 years ago, started planting seeds and getting positions within the party itself. So they started really, really small. And here we are 10 years later, the fruits of their plantings.
Okay, well, let's see what happens, but great to speak with you both today. Great to hear your insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A former top advisor to Dr. Anthony Fauci pleads guilty in a case involving hidden COVID research records. The evidence prosecutors uncovered. More news after this break. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Jane Seymour, and I spent years on TV playing a doctor. But I learned about the heartbreaking reality of heart disease and stroke when they touched my own life. My father nearly died before having a quadruple bypass and valve replacement that saved him. And my mom, who was my inspiration, suffered a stroke that took away her speech, her ability to move, and ultimately her life. To see someone so vibrant, so positive, who'd survived so much in life, be debilitated by a stroke, it was devastating. And also a wake-up call. And that's why I'm so passionate about supporting the American Heart Association. They're doing more every day to stop needless deaths. But they simply can't do their life-saving work without you. So please call now or go to helpheart.org. And for only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, your donation will go to work to do amazing things, like fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. I hope that you'll open your heart right now and join me. Please call now or go to helpheart.org, give $19 a month, and we'll send you this special t-shirt that you can proudly wear to show that you're part of a community of monthly donors who are helping save lives. A healthy heart is the spirit of life. It makes it possible to do the things that you love, to spend time with your friends and family and fulfill your life's dreams. But so many won't have that chance. Heart disease is America's #1 killer and the #1 killer of women. And that's why I'll do whatever I can to make sure others don't die from heart disease before their time. So please join me. Call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org and help save even more lives. Thank you.
Looking for a healthy and smooth-tasting brew? Drop by Days Coffee Roasters today and explore our wide selection of specialty-grade, small-batch roasted coffee. Home to North America's first enzyme-fermented coffee, we source a wide selection of specialty-grade coffee beans from around the world, and our baristas are ready to craft your customized brew. Visit Days Coffee at 28 North Street, Middletown, New York. Come experience a brew like no other.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies. Because when people are fed, futures are nourished. And with your help, together we can end hunger. Join the movement at feedingamerica.org/actnow.
President Trump is announcing his pick to lead the Food and Drug Administration. In a Truth Social post, the president writes, "Today I am honored to nominate the wonderful Dr. Heidi Overton, MD, PhD, as our next FDA commissioner." Dr. Heidi has been a rock star in my administration, where she has worked directly with Secretary Kennedy, Dr. Oz, and team to deliver on the most transformative health agenda in history. She is known to take on the hardest issues and bring me solutions that work best for the country. The president says Heidi is always right, Secretary Kennedy recently said in the Oval Office. And he adds Dr. Heidi will work with Secretary Kennedy and Dr. Oz to rapidly deliver on my priorities of faster cures, increased American innovation, major clinical trial reforms, lower drug prices, and even more MAHA wins. This decision comes about 3 months after the resignation of Dr. Marty Makary, Trump's first FDA commissioner. Overton currently serves as the deputy director of the White House's Domestic Policy Council. She was part of the first Trump administration before she joined the America First Policy Institute think tank. A former top science advisor to Dr. Anthony Fauci is facing possible prison time after pleading guilty to a federal conspiracy charge. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the case.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony...
Dr. David Morin spent 16 years as a senior advisor inside the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, the agency Dr. Fauci led for decades. Prosecutors say Morin's conspired to dodge Freedom of Information Act requests tied to a bat coronavirus research grant connected to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, corresponding through his personal Gmail account instead of his government email to keep records out of public view. It's a pattern he was pressed on 2 years earlier during a congressional hearing.
But on February 24th, 2021, you wrote, quote, "I learned from our FOIA lady here how to make emails disappear after I'm FOIA'd, but before the search starts. So I think we are all safe. Plus, I deleted most of those earlier emails after sending them to Gmail," end quote. Did the NIH FOIA office instruct you on how to delete emails or avoid FOIA?
No.
Morin's told lawmakers he hadn't deleted evidence, But under his own guilty plea, he now admits doing exactly that and hiding grant-related communications.
On October 25th, 2021, another scientist wrote, quote, David is concerned about the privacy of text and other messages from his cell phone to you and me because he has been using a government phone. This came from Tony, end quote. Sir, did you ever have any conversations with Dr. Fauci regarding using personal phone or email to communicate with Dr. Daszak?
I don't remember it. It's possible. I probably wouldn't have remembered it, and I don't remember it. He and I usually never talked about that kind of stuff.
Court documents show Morin's accepted wine as a gift for what a co-conspirator called his behind-the-scenes shenanigans, and was offered further perks, including meals at Michelin-starred restaurants, in exchange for helping push back on the theory that COVID leaked from a lab. He's due to be sentenced November 12th in federal court in Maryland, and faces up to 5 years behind bars. The case lands as a separate push to hold Fauci himself in contempt of Congress sits with the Justice Department. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
No more refundable tax credits for illegal immigrants. The Trump administration is strengthening enforcement of federal law that bars illegal immigrants from receiving public benefits. The Treasury Department and the IRS are proposing new regulations that clarify who are eligible for refundable tax credits. The rules apply to the adoption tax credit, the child tax credit, the American Opportunity Tax Credit, and the Earned Income Tax Credit. Only U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, and other qualified foreigners, like asylees and refugees, will be eligible for the tax credits. Illegal immigrants will not be eligible. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent commenting, quote, under President Trump, the days of illegal aliens collecting taxpayer-funded benefits are over. American taxpayers should not be forced to foot the bill for benefits going to those who are barred by law from receiving them. Prosecutors are urging a Utah judge to uphold all charges against a man accused of killing Charlie Kirk. That includes an aggravated murder charge that could carry the death penalty. Prosecutors filed their argument yesterday. They say the evidence clearly supports all 7 charges against Tyler James Robinson. Defense lawyers had argued that the evidence did not establish probable cause. That's a reasonable belief that he committed the alleged offense. They also said it did not support a death penalty level charge. Prosecutors say other people were also in danger when Kirk was shot at Utah Valley University last September. Kirk was speaking to a crowd of about 3,000 people when he was fatally shot in the neck. Robinson faces 7 charges in all. On September 1st, Robinson's lawyers and prosecutors will make their arguments to a judge who will decide whether there is enough evidence for the case to go to trial. A new judge will oversee the potential retrial of a teenager convicted of fatally stabbing another teen at a Texas track meet last year. Jurors found Carmelo Anthony guilty of murdering Austin Metcalf in June. The jury sentenced him to 35 years, rejecting his claims of self-defense during a confrontation with Metcalf at a stadium in Frisco. State District Judge John Roach oversaw Anthony's first trial. Anthony's attorneys argue that Roach showed bias toward the teen. The defense cited Roach's strict enforcement of courtroom rules, his order preventing media coverage of the trial, and an interview he gave after the verdict. Visiting Judge Sid Harrell has ordered a new judge to preside over an August 29th hearing to determine whether Anthony will receive a new trial. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro has signed an executive order aimed at curbing the growth of AI data centers. Shapiro saying his order will prioritize Pennsylvanians over developers.
I know you want the right to weigh in on decisions about what your community looks like going forward, and this executive order allows for that. I know you want the right to be able to weigh in on what kind of community you raise your children in. This executive order puts that power back in our local communities. I know you want the right to be able to say no to bad projects and developers who don't listen to your concerns, who treat you with disrespect, who try to raise your utility costs or pollute your resources. This executive order returns that power to the people.
Shapiro's executive order directs the State Department of Environmental Protection to draft strict guardrails for developers. AI data centers designed to use more than 25 megawatts will require a consent order and approval from local municipalities or counties. According to the governor's office, more than 100 data centers have been proposed in Pennsylvania. The state has received permitting applications related to 20 of them. 14 data centers are currently in development. If you fly through Washington Dulles International Airport 8 years from now, you should expect some big changes. The board that oversees the airport is approving a $19.9 billion overhaul plan. This is the latest in a series of major infrastructure projects President Trump announced and around Washington, D.C. The reconstruction of the airport's main terminal will have a budget of $6.2 billion. Another $3.75 billion will go towards new buildings, underground tunnels, and an automated passenger transportation system. That system is going to replace slow vehicles that currently transport passengers across the tarmac. The airport will also gain a new concourse. The projects are set to begin in late 2027 and completed by 2034. This is one of the largest U.S. airport overhauls ever proposed. It will be funded largely through new municipal bonds. Airlines will also take on part of the cost. A U.S. Air Force flight to Antarctica turns back after a Russian missile warning. What officials are saying. After this break, more news.
My name's Stacy, I'm 57, and I was adopted in 2020.
We were adopted in 2019.
And we were adopted in 2021.
We had a house, and it sounds crazy, but it wasn't a home. The one thing that Jake and Emma brought is it became a home.
When I met Dakota, he had just turned 14.
You weren't there for the first this and the first that. I missed the first words, but we got a lot of other firsts.
Watching her say, oh my God, I cannot believe I got my license. And she's like, I passed. And I'm like, girl.
See them grow. It is.
They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
You and you.
Kids in the middle.
What I thought was a complete life was nowhere near complete, but it is now.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually, once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers. He connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
We come from a long line of farmers, and there's a sense of pride, but there's also a significant amount of pressure.
Farmers have to take care of their physical and their mental health, because what's a farm without a farmer?
Watching the sun come up, that's my time. I can have a cup of coffee, and every day is a new opportunity.
That's cool.
Yay!
Don't forget to check in on yourself. Love your mind.
Eyes forward. Don't drive distracted.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Be your own hero.
Significant changes are taking place in both Russia and Ukraine. Ukraine's ousted defense minister is calling for wartime presidential elections, and some Ukrainians are taking to the streets in his support. The Kremlin is dealing with major financial problems across its economy. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pasdar has the latest.
Some Ukrainians are taking to the streets on Wednesday, calling for wartime presidential elections. The demand comes from the nation's ousted defense minister, Mikhailo Fedorov. President Vladimir Zelensky let him go after only 6 months in office. Before he was fired, Fedorov had called for significant changes to Ukraine's military system, including modernization. He now wants the nation to hold wartime presidential elections.
Democracy cannot be held hostage by Russia. We must find a lawful, safe, and realistic mechanism that would allow Ukraine to restore a fully functioning democratic process, even under conditions of a long war.
Zelensky was never re-elected as the nation cancelled presidential elections due to the war. Meanwhile, in Russia, the country is dealing with major economic challenges. This graph by the Institute for the Study of War shows the decline of Russia's annual GDP growth, falling to below 1% this year. At the same time, Russia's defense spending keeps rising, as this graph shows. On top of that, the Kremlin is dealing with growing international sanctions. One sign of Russia's economic crisis is that just last week, a Russian state-owned bank fired its chief economist, Andrei Klepach, a sign of growing internal frustration. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
Nearly 4 years after the Nord Stream pipeline explosions, investigators say they've made a key arrest. German prosecutors say a Ukrainian man was taken into custody in Croatia. The man is a trained scuba diver. He was taken into custody on a European arrest warrant. Prosecutors say he was part of a group that planned explosives on the Nord Stream 1 and 2 pipelines near a Danish island in September 2022. The detonations disrupted Russian gas supplies to Europe. He's now expected to be extradited to Germany to face sabotage charges. It's the second arrest in the case. A former Ukrainian army officer was charged last month after being extradited from Italy last year. Officials say a U.S. Air Force flight to Antarctica turned back due to a missile warning from Russia. New Zealand's Civil Aviation Authority says the plane took off from Christchurch and returned to that airport. It says Russia's State Air Traffic Management Corporation had alerted it to a planned missile launch. The CAA says it created a potential hazard to international airspace. That's why it issued what's called a notice to airmen, according to the agency. Flights from Christchurch to Antarctic bases are common at this time of year. Tennis star Nick Kyrgios has been provisionally suspended after testing positive for cocaine. The International Tennis Integrity Agency says his positive sample came from an event in Spain back in June. The former Wimbledon finalist has been barred from the sport since August 4th. Kyrgios responded on Instagram, calling it a huge mistake. He apologized to friends and family, and he says years of injuries have taken a toll on him physically and mentally, and says he's stepping away from social media for the next 28 days. He has the right to appeal, though he hasn't yet. The 31-year-old has fallen to 919th in the world rankings. Amazon is bringing drone deliveries to hundreds of new communities. How quickly your order could arrive after this break. Stay tuned.
Getting prescription glasses from Select Specs is easier than you might think. Select your frames from our £6 range in-house brands or our extensive designer collections. Then enter, upload or email your latest prescription and our website will analyze it and help you select the best lenses and options to suit you. Click to place the order and your new Select Specs glasses are delivered right to your door. Ordering your prescription glasses is as easy as 1, 2, C with Select Specs at selectspecs.com.
An important message for Americans ages 50 to 85.
You seen that life insurance thing I got in the mail?
From Colonial Penn?
Yeah, that's it.
It's over there.
The recycle bin. I sent for this.
You're buying life insurance now? Have you been to the grocery store lately? The last thing we need is another bill.
That's exactly why we need life insurance. If something happens to either of us, those bills won't go away. Life insurance can help pay them. Funeral costs, too. Take a look at this. It costs pennies a day.
That's right. Rates for Colonial Penn Life Insurance start at $9.95 a month. That's 35 cents a day. And this is one bill you know will never go up. A lifetime rate lock guarantees it. Your rate is guaranteed, and so is your acceptance. That makes applying quick and easy. There are no medical questions, no physical exam. Since you can't be turned down, we don't ask about your health. And this is lifetime coverage. It never expires. Just pay your bill, and it's yours to keep for as long as you'd like.
This is the application. There's nothing to it. No health questions. What's this?
Free beneficiary planner. When we fill it out, all our important information and final wishes will be in one place.
The kids will appreciate that.
Call for more information and your free gift today. Read how easy it is to get life insurance from Colonial Penn. Even if you have pre-existing conditions or a fixed income, it's easy and risk-free. Every policy we issue comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call now to learn more. You have nothing to lose.
Call 1-800-293-7575 for free information and a free beneficiary planner. That's 1-800-293-7575. There's no risk or obligation. 1-800-293-7575. Call now.
Big things are happening at Mathis Home. Get Labor Day deals and save on the latest dining rooms.
Whatever you're looking for, we have all the styles you love at unbeatable prices.
Plus, now you can take 5 years to pay with easy monthly payments to get the room of your dreams without having to wait. This dining set is a bestseller and comes with 4 comfy side chairs. With our low prices and brand new 60-month financing, you can take it home today for a payment of just $30 a month. Save now with Labor Day deals at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Amazon Prime is expanding its air drone delivery service. The online retailer giant says nearly 500 cities and towns should have the service by the end of the year. Right now, less than 100 cities are serviced. Items have to be 5 pounds or less and fit inside a large shoebox that can be delivered by drone. Amazon says more than 60% of items ordered by customers fit into that category. The company says orders can arrive in as fast as 30 minutes, with most within 60 minutes after checking out. Prime members will be able to access the service for free on orders of $50 or more. Orders under $50 will cost $2.99 for delivery. Customers without a Prime membership will have to pay $4.99. IndyCar's Freedom 250 Grand Prix is set for this weekend in Washington, D.C. Race car drivers will speed past some of the capital's iconic landmarks to celebrate the nation's 250th anniversary. The race will take place and take drivers down Pennsylvania Avenue on a temporary racetrack on D.C. streets. Organizers say cars will reach speeds of up to 185 miles per hour. The 1.7-mile route runs past landmarks including the National Archives, the Smithsonian Institution, and the National Gallery of Art. Local residents are sharing their thoughts ahead of the race.
I think I do want to come see it. That sounds really interesting. But yeah, I see a lot of efforts going into this event. So, I mean, where's the effort for other things that needs its attention like this? Just saying. But I think it's cool.
I think it's really exciting. There's certainly a buzz around DC that everyone's really looking forward to this weekend. It's the 250th year celebration. Everything so far in DC has been really exciting and fun to attend, and so I think that this is going to match that and hopefully be the best that we've had here.
Preparations for the race include welding down manhole covers, erecting fencing, and installing barriers along the course. Freedom 250 Grand Prix drivers start their engines on Saturday. It's been called the most important meal of the day. Whether you agree or not, breakfast is critical for students as it fuels the brain, boosts school focus, and provides the daily nutrition needed for development. And experts say parents can check all those boxes with ease even on a busy morning. Here are some back-to-school breakfast ideas that may help.
Just getting out the door before school can be a tough task, but making sure your student can power through the day doesn't have to be hard.
What we want to make sure is that it has balance and some good protein in it to help get them to maybe the next snack or that next lunch.
Catherine Sherry with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta says if your child doesn't enjoy eating first thing in the morning, that's okay. The meal doesn't have to be large. She says to just give them some sort of protein and a carb that can help them kick off the school day.
That would be something like a whole wheat piece of toast with some peanut butter, maybe some hummus on there.
Other simple and effective healthy breakfast ideas: Greek yogurt. Add berries and nuts or seeds. Sherry says you can also mix in peanut butter for another pop of protein, or a little honey or maple syrup. Just limit the overall sugar content.
A breakfast also doesn't just have to be breakfast food. It can be leftover dinner. We could have a turkey wrap. We could have a peanut butter and banana sandwich.
Sherry says breakfast pizzas can also be a hit. Whole wheat tortilla, a little sauce, maybe some leftover beans or chicken from the night before, and pop it in the oven to warm it up. Breakfast burritos are also good on the go. Pack them with eggs, veggies, avocado, and cheese. And she says to make them ahead of time.
Freeze them, and that's something quick and easy that we've made in bulk and we can have multiple times throughout the week.
A task force unit of U.S. Marshals serving a warrant were taken temporarily out of action by an unlikely foe, an unstable second-floor deck. Here's what happened.
Harrowing body cam video shows a task force of U.S. Marshals serving an arrest warrant in Missouri when a rickety deck gives way, causing the group to come crashing down to the ground. Another body camera captured an up-close look at the incident, which the Marshal's office says left members of the task force unit with injuries, but none described as life-threatening.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
The office said the suspect being pursued when the fall happened was not captured then, but was brought into custody later that day. In Illinois, it was falling glass that one campus police officer just narrowly avoided as storms battered buildings at Illinois State University. The video shows the officer hunkered down amid intense rain and wind when the glass comes crashing down just feet from his feet. The officer later shared the video featuring his understandably shocked expression and equally understandable gratitude to still be alive. Finally, one last fall was caught on camera, but this one was way less harrowing and way more hilarious. Employee Carter Sampson's day at Wisconsin's Gillis's Frozen Custard took a turn when he was caught on cam fumbling a vat of custard mix, resulting in one spectacular splatter.
I could just feel my hand slip, and as soon as it slipped, I don't remember anything after that other than being covered in the shake mix.
To no one's surprise, Sampson's sloppy slip-up is going viral, but Sampson told WISN he's all right with the internet infamy, saying sometimes you just gotta laugh and move on.
A Chinese national faces voter fraud charges for allegedly casting another person's ballot in the 2024 presidential election. Details on that after this break. Stay tuned.
I've devoted my life to combining cutting-edge science with biblical wisdom, and I believe Healing Leaves Tea is the Bible's best-kept health secret. In Revelation 22, the Bible reveals the tree of life and declares the leaves are for the healing of the nations. Amazingly, science confirms what Scripture declares. These leaves support digestion and immunity, maintain healthy inflammation, and boost energy. So instead of another supplement, I created Healing Leaves Tea. It's caffeine-free, convenient, and delicious, hot or cold. Thousands are making Healing Leaves Tea part of their daily wellness routine, and now you can too.
Call the number on your screen for this exclusive TV deal and save 30% on your preferred customer order with free shipping and risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. As a bonus, we'll include the Beginner's Guide to Essential Oils, a $16.99 value free. Call the number on your screen to learn more right now.
There's cultures that have been lost, but this culture hasn't been. The artist is showing us our sense of who we are, where we came from. You look at his hat. His hat is knitted probably by a man because a man traditionally knitted the hats. That hat tells you the story of who this person is, what his place in the culture is, the animals around him. Everything's all contained in the messages in the hat. And the tool that he's carrying over his shoulder. This is a centuries-old tool that has been able to rework the mountains. Those traditions are invaluable, and if we don't honor those traditions, then we're rootless. The artist is showing us the value of maintaining our culture and respecting our culture.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump pausing tariffs on Canada at the 11th hour, what progress has been made, and how China comes into play. Results are in for the Florida primaries with a major upset for the DSA in the House race. How lawmakers and the president are reacting to the nominees. A Chinese national is charged with voter fraud in Massachusetts. The Justice Department says he impersonated another Chinese national in the 2024 presidential election. Newly declassified documents reveal the Chinese Communist Party hacked voter files in 2020, but U.S. intelligence kept it a secret. The task force leader breaks down the key documents. And a pivotal trial for Meta Platforms continues. A former Meta engineer takes the stand accusing the company of ignoring research on social media's harm to children. Significant changes are taking place in both Russia and Ukraine. Ukrainians keep protesting their government while Russia is dealing with major financial problems.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Thank you for joining us. President Trump putting a last-minute pause on new tariffs against Canada as he cites a potential trade deal. It comes as the administration has been seeking to protect American industries from unfair trade practices by countries including China. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao has the latest behind this pause.
President Trump at the 11th hour last night putting a pause to 50% of new tariffs against Canadian goods that would total about roughly $28 billion worth of them. President Trump saying that upon the finalization of documents, they now have a good deal. Here's him speaking earlier this morning with reporters. Watch.
Our farmers were paying tremendous tariffs into Canada, and those tariffs are going to be totally eviscerated, down to zero. So subject to the finalization of documents, we have a deal with Canada.
And those tariffs were set to go into effect at midnight, but Trump reversed it last minute. President Trump also saying that the latest breakthrough comes after intense talks between the two sides in the days leading up to yesterday, and also a direct and a good phone call, according to President Trump, between him and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. In a news statement, meanwhile, the Canadian Prime Minister is saying that substantial progress has been made, although there is important work still to be done. Specifically, the U.S. Trade Representative in a news statement saying that in this potential deal that he says he feels optimistic about, it would include, for example, comprehensive market access for all American goods, as well as digital trade alignment and economic security commitments that would all benefit American industries and American workers. Now, all of this comes after last month, President Trump threatened to hit a 50% tariffs against Canadian goods, for example, its alcohol, hockey equipment, its cement, as well as dairy products. The administration has been criticizing Canada for treating American industries, in particular auto industries, unfairly, also singling out China and Canada in particular for being the only two countries that retaliated against American tariffs. Let's take a look.
And happening now, President Trump is hosting cryptocurrency executives at the White House as the SEC moves to establish new rules for digital assets. Let's take a look.
everything else created, and we're doing well. We're leading in every aspect, including AI, and we're leading by a lot. And we want to keep it that way. I want to thank the chairman of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, Mike Selick, for his tremendous leadership. And come here. Thank you, Mike. I didn't recognize you from so close. And thanks as well to a very special man, a man that everybody respected for a long time. Yeah, he's a man I wanted to do this job, head of the SEC. Chairman Paul Atkins, who's also doing an outstanding job in everything else he touches. He's doing a lot of things for the country, so I want to thank you very much. Great job. Thank you. Thank you very much, Paul. We're also pleased to be joined by Executive Director of the President's Council with advisors with the digital asset. All of the digital assets are all put into one, Patrick Witt, and many other top industry leaders, including Coinbase. Where's Brian? Brian Armstrong, CEO. He's one of the greats. Where is he? Where are you? Oh, you look well. You get much younger. You look good. CEO of International and Intercontinental Exchange, Jeff Sprecher. One of the things, a little thing called the New York Stock Exchange. He owns a thing called the New York Stock Exchange. Quite a nice asset, right? Yes, it is. CEO of NASDAQ, Adina Friedman. Thank you very much, Adina. Great job you're doing. CEO of Robinhood, Vlad Tenev. Thank you, Vlad. Nice to see you. And CEO of Kraken, Arjun Sethi. And thank you very much, wherever you are. Thank you very much. Great group of people. We also have some others here that we wanted them. It's where's Mike, co-founder of CEO of CTO and president of BitGo, which is a big deal in the world of that thing, that little thing that's happening out there. And Brad Garlinghouse, CEO of Ripple. Brad, thank you very much, Brad. Sergey Nazarov, co-founder of Chainlink Labs. Thank you very much. Good, Sergey. Good job. Arjan, you're here. Arjan? I'm still here. You're here? You haven't left? Peter Smith is here, and Tyler and Cameron Winklevoss are tremendous people, tremendous investors, brilliant people. Chris Dixon is here, and I think I've sort of got anybody I didn't mention, by the way. Pretty much got the whole group. Good. They gave me 4 sets of lists, and that's always a little complex. You never want to say one more than 3 times. Under the crooked Joe Biden administration, the spirit of innovation that built America was under serious attack like never before. And nowhere was that more true than crypto and other new financial technologies, where we were going to be taken to the cleaners by China and other countries. The radical left tried to crush these developments with crippling regulations, brutal restrictions, weaponization. They used weaponization, political weaponization, and constant targeting that drove innovation overseas, and they wanted to drive it out. And at the end of toward the end of the campaign, if you remember, they decided they liked it very much because there were over 100 million people that were liking Trump a lot more because I was in favor of it. They were against it, and they became very much in favor of it. But by that time, it was too late. And besides, those days are all over. That was a terrible period of time for a lot of very good, very honorable financial people. On day one, we fired Joe Biden's rogue SEC chair, Gary Gensler. I think we like Paul better. Do we agree? We like Paul better? Number one, he's smarter. He's also smarter, by the way. But we fired him. We got him the hell out of here. We terminated the so-called Operation Choke Point 2.0, which is what the name of their operation was, weaponization. And we ended the war on crypto once and for all. And it's been booming. It's been doing big. And nobody's been able to break in. China would like to break in. They're still trying, but they have been able to. I signed a historic executive order banning any attempt to create a central bank digital currency. We launched Project Crypto to modernize rules so that our financial markets can move into blockchain technology. I established the United States Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, making Bitcoin a permanent asset of the United States Treasury, which has turned out incredibly well. I also created the United States Digital Asset Stockpile to hold custody of all other digital assets, and that's exactly what it's done. It's been amazing.
1 year ago this summer, I signed landmark legislation known as the Genius Act. I named it after myself. I didn't want to use my name, so I just called it the Genius Act, paving the way for widespread adoption of dollar-backed stablecoins. And that's worked out very well. Every single American benefits enormously from our country's status as the financial center of the world, and we want to keep it that way. We're leading by leaps and bounds. We've gained so much in the last 16 months like nobody can believe, actually. Not only that, but we have more money being invested in the United States than any country at any time in history. Money's coming in by the trillions. Our nation's economic dominance drives trillions of dollars in investments, creates millions of jobs, and expands access, credit, and capital so that every citizen has a chance to achieve what we now hear a lot about, the American dream. Young people are looking for the American dream. They weren't thinking about that 2 years ago. New financial technologies are extending this American dominance into the 21st century, and that's why we're focused on creating a clear regulatory framework for pioneers and builders like the people that are with me here, so that they can do business with confidence on American soil. They don't have to go to other countries to do their business. We're ensuring that America remains the undisputed leader, not only in Bitcoin and crypto, but also technologies like prediction markets, artificial intelligence, and much more. And we're leading in every single one. And I will tell you, the AI, the artificial intelligence, we're way ahead of number two. Number two is China. And I never want to underestimate China, but right now we're way ahead. President Xi's coming on September 24th. We look forward to it. We'll probably be talking about AI and a lot of other things, but we're doing tremendously well, largely because of people and some other friends of ours that are on the board, and they'll be here in 2 weeks, I understand. In May, Chairman Selig authorized the first ever true Bitcoin perpetual futures contract on a CFTC registered exchange, first time. I understand that Mike is also working to bring hyperliquid into the United States in a fully compliant and legal fashion. It's working very hard on that. We would really like to see interest rates come down. You know, in the old days with interest rates, many of you are too young to know this, but when we announced good numbers, interest rates would go down. And the theory was because the asset value became so good, it became so prime. But now when we announce good numbers, which we're doing all the time, they keep driving the interest rates up because they're so afraid of inflation. And they shouldn't be. They should allow interest rates to go down. When you announce good numbers, you shouldn't drive them up. They keep thinking that we'll drive them up to stop inflation, because success and growth does not cause inflation. Other things cause inflation. We inherited the #1 inflation ever in the history of our country from Biden, and it lifted prices and everything else, and we're getting them all down. But interest rates should be allowed to fall with the success of our country, not rise because of the success. But we're also on the very beginning of a revolution in fictional and financial. You take a look at some of the things that are being done on a financial basis and the financial technology that's the potential to create more jobs, opportunity, and wealth for all Americans. And that's what it's doing. It's creating jobs and great wealth. And I think that can't be better seen by the stock market. So we've had 80 in a short period of time, a year and a half. We've had 80 days where the stock market hit all-time highs. I haven't looked today. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't look. I don't want to look. But I hear it's good. But we've had 80 days, Jeff, where the stock market has hit an all-time high. And nobody's ever seen anything like that. And I think bringing it down to another level, and maybe a higher level from the standpoint of importance, 401ks have hit record highs on almost 40% of the time that I've been President of the United States, and that affects tens of millions of people. The 401ks are at record numbers. So 2 years ago, our country was dead, and now our country is the hottest country anywhere in the world. There's nobody close. No other country is close, and every country will admit it. So now we need Congress to take the next step by passing the Clarity Act, a fair version of the Clarity Act, and this landmark structure legislation. It's a very, very powerful structured legislation which will keep us ahead of China, keep us ahead of everyone else, will open the door to the next wave of innovations and innovators. So I'd like to ask Chairman Selleck to say a few words and a little bit of the details about what we're doing, and then we'll follow it up with Chairman Atkins and Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong, Intercontinental Exchange CEO Jeff Sprecher, Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev, and Kraken CEO Arjan. So we have that all set, and let's get going. And you know what? If you want to speak for a very short period of time, that's okay, too.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's an honor to be here with you and this exceptional group of business leaders. Thanks to your leadership, the era of political lawfare, debanking, and regulation by enforcement is over. Innovators like the people in this room are welcome to the White House, not railroaded to the big house. And the new frontier of finance is being built right here in the United States of America. From day one, this president has been clear. America will not fall behind and allow other countries to take its place as the greatest country on earth to build a new technology, operate a business, and invest for the future. The world will run on the backbone of American technology. Under President Trump's leadership, we've codified the Genius Act, established a strategic Bitcoin reserve, drawn a clear line in the sand between crypto securities and commodities, launched the first U.S. crypto perpetual, and protected the rights of software developers. We've exiled Gary Gensler, defeated the anti-crypto army, and made the United States the crypto capital of the world. I'm proud to be working with Secretary Lutnick in the Department of Commerce as well to make America the compute capital of the world. This may be the most important commodity of our day. Some call it digital oil, and America needs to dominate these markets to win the AI race. We've also protected federally regulated prediction markets from rogue state attorneys generals like Letitia James, who seek to nullify federal law and drive these markets offshore to unregulated and foreign venues. American dominance in the technologies that will define the future remains unmatched. We are truly in a golden age of American innovation. Now, the United States has a choice. We can either write the rules that define the next generation of financial markets, or we can let other countries write them for us. With Congress advancing the Clarity Act towards the finish line, we stand ready to implement the bill once the president signs it. But we'll use every tool available to move the president's pro-innovation agenda forward in the meantime. Tomorrow at the inaugural meeting of the CFTC's Innovation Advisory Committee, I look forward to sharing more details on our regulatory path forward. A path forward that provides greater certainty for innovators while reinforcing confidence in our markets for decades to come. This president has assembled an extraordinary team of entrepreneurs, builders, investors, and business leaders advising in government, like David Sachs, of course, and Patrick Witt. This real-world experience has already brought valuable perspectives into policymaking, and it will continue to pay dividends for the American people. Innovation depends on regulatory clarity. Clear rules create confidence, confidence attracts investment, and investment creates jobs, strengthens our markets, and keeps the world's best talent building here in America. Mr. President, thank you again for your leadership and for making American innovation great again. The work we're doing now to shape the future of our great nation will do measures for decades to come. Now, I'm honored to introduce the most pro-innovation, pro-free market SEC chairman in America's history, and it's not Gary Gensler, of course. It's Paul Atkins. So, Mr. Chairman, please.
Well, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Mr. President, for having us here today. From day one, you've made our nation's financial dominance and innovation job one. We at the SEC are delivering on your agenda. We're making IPOs great again, to continue on your theme, by cutting red tape that discourages companies from going public. Under your leadership, Mr. President, the IPO market is booming. Since Inauguration Day, 583 companies have gone public, and that's up 75% compared to the final year and a half of the Biden administration. And those companies have raised an impressive $208 billion, and that's nearly 4 times the amount raised during the final year and a half of the previous administration. So that's just not incremental progress. That is a turnaround. You've committed to making the United States the crypto capital of the world. And yesterday, the SEC, I'm proud to say, took another significant step to deliver on that. Our proposal, the crypto assets rule, would provide crypto entrepreneurs like those here in this room and job creators the certainty to raise capital in the United States using digital assets. This action is consonant with our belief that the most important priority is for Congress to send the Clarity Act to your desk for your signature. And the SEC is doing everything we can to support that work. So thank you again, Mr. President, for leading this nation to ensure that we continue to have the strongest markets in the world, to reshore innovation, and to welcome, yes, a whole new generation of investors through the Trump accounts. So under your leadership, we will make sure that the greatest advances of the technological frontier are right here in America. So thank you very much.
Great job.
Well, this morning I was thinking back to the 2024 campaign where the president, I think, very astutely recognized there was millions of voters in the United States who felt disenfranchised by the prior administration. And he made a commitment at that time to make America the crypto capital of the world. And within weeks of taking office, delivered on that promise. And it started first with this executive order, which came out ordering the agencies in his administration to take steps in this direction. Shortly thereafter, appointed two of the most competent and pro-innovation regulators anywhere in the world, Chair Selig and Chair Atkins, and of course fired Gary Gensler. There was that big applause line at the Bitcoin conference, which was powerful. And of course, the Genius Act was another milestone just in the past year, along with the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, et cetera. And just this week, I have to commend Chair Atkins for publishing this new rule that allows crypto projects to raise capital in the US for the first time. There's clarity on that. And Chair Selig, we're excited to attend the advisory committee meeting tomorrow to make progress there. So an incredible amount of progress has been made. And I think what's most important next, of course, is this September 15th vote that we have with the Clarity Act. This would make all of the progress that this administration has made durable into the future so it could survive for decades and decades to come. And make no mistake, there are folks out there who they want to see this legislation not happen, right? Maybe some of the big banks don't want the competition from crypto companies. Other banks are leaning in and have endorsed it, which I think is really powerful. And so if we all come together, I think we can get this bill over the finish line and hopefully get more than 60 votes come September 15th. Thank you.
And it's very bipartisan, I would say. So very much.
That is true.
A lot of Democrat support.
There's hundreds of pages of changes that have come in from the Democrat side as well. It's a true bipartisan compromise. And yeah, it's a great it's a great work product. So up next, I think, is Jeff Sprecher.
Thank you. Mr. President, I just wanted to tell you that, that your trade policies of fair trade to bring back jobs and businesses from overseas, your energy dominance policies to fuel the next generation of technology in the United States, your big, beautiful bill that created incentives for investments has led to the records that you're hearing about in our stock markets, the record number of IPOs. And as you know from working with my wife who works on private businesses, there's a record number of business formations in this country right now. So we're here to talk about how to evolve regulation so that we don't impede that progress. But one of the things I can tell you about the New York Stock Exchange is that it was formed at the time of our country. And so it, for 250 years, has been subject to every single financial services regulation that has ever passed in the United States, bar none. And so one of the things that I'm so thankful that you've done is put two really strong chairs in these seats and ask them to go through past legislation, regulation, and figure out what we can get rid of that no longer serves the interests of this country. And for that, I really appreciate that on behalf of the New York Stock Exchange.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, thank you for bringing us together and for your work to ensure the next generation of Americans has a stake in the country's economic success through the Trump accounts and many other things. Thank you also to Chair Selig, Chair Atkins, your administration, for the work underway to strengthen American capital markets and expand opportunity for all Americans. If I had to sum up Robinhood in one word, it would be ownership. Broad ownership is essential to a free, stable, and prosperous society. That belief has shaped pretty much every product we've built, from commission-free investing to 24-hour trading, and now outside the United States to tokenization, which we're using to expand ownership of American assets to people in more than 120 countries. Yet this innovation is reaching investors abroad before investors here back home. And the opportunity goes far beyond public markets. Tokenization will open up markets that have long been out of reach, including private companies. Today, too much economic value is being created before ordinary investors get a chance to participate. Expanding ownership also requires protecting investors. Innovation and investor protection aren't opposing goals. America became the world's capital markets capital by doing both, and the chairs here understand that. American companies are building this technology. American markets are powering it. American assets are also at the center of it. American investors should not be the last to benefit. We look forward to continue to work together to expand ownership, build the next generation of capital markets, and ensure America leads the way. Thank you. Arjun.
Hello, everyone. I was thinking about what I was going to say today. Most of the time, I don't speak too much, but the first time I met the president, he said, "What does your company do?" And I said, we're a startup. We move at warp speed. And the first thing he said is, "Why not at Trump speed?" So we started acting that way. Look, our mission at Kraken isn't about Kraken. Brian created Coinbase. Vlad here, you have ICE, NASDAQ. They created the world markets. And all we're trying to do is make sure that everyone in America has the ability to be able to succeed in the same way that we did. And that's essentially how we think about it. So our motto at Kraken has been fix money, we fix the world. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Greg. And if you have any questions, or if anybody else of this very distinguished, would somebody like to say something? My male models who happen to be genius. They're brilliant and they look good, right? But anybody, would you like to say something? Go ahead, please.
Just want to thank you, Mr. President, for all of your leadership. America should lead in crypto and win in markets like prediction markets. And with your leadership and your administration, you're helping America lead here and become the crypto capital of the world. So thank you very much. I just want to thank you, Mr. President, as well as Chairman Atkins and Chairman Selig for the great work that they're doing.
Yeah, I just want to say that what Chairman Selig and Chairman Atkins are doing and the President has enabled with his leadership is actually working. So if you look at stablecoin usage and adoption, it's increasing the usage and distribution of the US dollar at higher and higher levels than our industry has ever seen, specifically because of the Genius Act and the movement of more and more treasuries into stablecoins and therefore into more and more hands across the world. And now the tokenization of equities, thanks to Chairman Selig's and Chairman Atkins' great work and collaboration and actual work together rather than working against each other as before, is going to distribute US equities globally and increase the distribution of those. So, we power a lot of these applications and companies, so we know what the numbers actually are, and they're massively increasing because we have regulators and leadership that enables the success and distribution of these US-based assets. So there's actually a very real and tangible outcome that's really now benefiting the US and adoption of US-issued assets and the US dollar. So I just want to mention that it really is working and hitting all-time highs. So thank you very much. Thank you.
So if you have any questions, we have a meeting next week with the AI people. The top people are coming in, so we can talk about that. But we're leading by a lot with AI. We want to keep it that way. We want to regulate, but we want to have it regulation where they can continue to lead, not regulation that's going to stifle a very important industry. I think maybe bigger than the internet, bigger than anything anyone's seen. And we're helping in that regard, especially with regard to allowing them to produce their own electricity, which everyone thought was crazy that it would never be approved. We're getting them fast 2- and 3-week approvals. They're building some of the greatest electric plants anywhere in the world because our grid is old and tired and weak, and they're actually giving the excess electricity into the grid, but they're building power plants that nobody's ever seen anything like it. We're not using the power from the grid. We're using brand new power, so it's a great thing. Because that misconception has been out there that we're taking electricity, we're actually creating electricity, and that's something I was proud of because that was my idea. Nobody believed it. Actually, it went along for 2-3 weeks. I said, how come these guys aren't submitting? Well, they thought that you were just kidding, because that's the way it's been in this country. Nobody would ever say a thing like that. But no, they're building power plants, the likes of which, all different, fueled all different ways, but the likes of which we've never seen. The people that are in the power business, and we're seeing things that we've never seen before because a very high level of intelligence is doing it. So it's been great. Okay, any questions?
Mr. President.
Yeah, please.
Mr. President, does the administration have any plans to accumulate sizable amounts of Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies?
Well, it's been talked about. I think I'd probably rely on Paul and the whole group for that. He'll make a decision. You guys will make a decision, and you'll let me know. But certainly it's been talked about. It's taken a lot of pressure off the dollar. It's been very, very good for the dollar. And I think if you came in with recommendations, two of you, if you came in with some recommendations, I would certainly listen. It seems to be a pretty big subject. Yes, please.
Hi, President Trump. I have 2 quick questions.
Go ahead.
Don't get around here much. So my first question is, we're talking about AI and crypto a lot, and you won overwhelmingly with working class Americans in 2024, tens of millions of working class Americans. Many of them, they say, we love President Trump, but we're still cautious about AI and crypto. What do you say to those who are still reticent to embrace this evolution?
So I think it's a great question, and I think it's going to create a lot of jobs. It's going to create success. It's going to create tremendous innovation medically. I mean, they're coming up with already, amazingly, they came out with something today that I looked at it having to do, I won't go into the details, but having to do it with a pretty unstoppable disease. And all of a sudden they're coming up with answers that they never thought were possible and things that they never even would have thought about. So I think it's really creating jobs. And I can tell you one thing, if you look at our construction jobs right now, because we're building more plants, factories, things that really have something to do with the AI, but also car factories, car plants, they're moving into our country. Honda just announced, Toyota just announced they're moving their operations from Mexico, from Canada, from other places. We, by the way, probably have a deal with Canada. You probably saw that. Very major tariffs were going on to Canada today. We delayed it for 3 days because I think we have a deal with the Prime Minister, and good deal for everybody. So that's good. But the construction jobs are enormous. We're building the biggest plants anywhere in the world. And I can say if I were the mayor of a town or the governor of a state and I had a chance to get a big plant in, an AI plant or a data center, I would absolutely want it because the jobs are enormous and the money paid, the taxes paid are just enormous. And if you don't take it, you're going to be left behind because there are plenty of places that want it. So I would say that maybe it can use a little public relations help. But if I were a governor or mayor, I would want that plant in my community. And many of them are designed in a very beautiful way. It's really very positive. Okay, thank you.
A little off topic. So you mentioned Joe Biden and some of the past leadership, and it's been about 69 days since we've seen Mitch McConnell. Sometimes when you look at Congress, it looks like the cast of Cocoon. But I read a Cindy Adams column in the New York Post recently, and she talked about how we need term limits and someone needs to hold Congress accountable. Maybe you should be the person to do it. Would you support term limits for Congress or some type of cognitive testing? Because maybe if we had that the last 4 years, we wouldn't have ended up in some of these messes.
So term limits are very popular with the public. I've seen it both ways. I've seen where people go in and they get termed out and they're very talented and they're at the height of their career, you know, politicians. And you end up with total rookies in there, nothing gets done. And I've seen it the other way where people are there too long. We see that all the time. I see both. I always like to say that a term limit is an election. You know, the public's pretty smart. You see that last night. We had some great success last night. The Republican Party had tremendous success last night. But I like to say that term limits should be elections. But I'm okay with term limits. Remember, the people that have to pass term limits are the people that are going to be voting on them to get out of office. So it's a little bit tough. That's not the easiest vote to get, is it, huh? But I'm okay with it one way or the other. I do think elections really term people out.
Mr. President, I want to ask you about
about Canada, but first, the Treasury Secretary says that we could see the most impactful sanctions on Iran this week. When will they come, and what else could be sanctioned on Iran?
Well, we have things that we could sanction. We have very draconian sanctions, and we'll see what happens. Right now, the strait is open. A lot of boats are coming through. People aren't reporting that, and that may slow down a little bit at some point. But right now, a lot of boats are coming through. The naval blockade has been extremely effective. Zero, I mean, literally, while it's up, and that's been for quite a while, you know, except for a couple of little pauses where we opened it purposely with a deal. But the deal didn't terminate, you know, the deal didn't turn out to be what they said, you know, when they tell us one thing and they do another. But the blockade has been 100% successful. No boats have gotten into Iran, but they are getting in for other places. But we'll see. We're going to see what happens. It'll either be extremely good and oil prices are going to drop like a rock, or we'll continue to do exactly what we're doing. You know, they were talking about $350 a barrel, and it's today 84, 85. And we are getting a lot of oil out. But the other thing that's happened is people have found other alternatives, which they never thought about. Texas, Alaska, Louisiana, and other places. In addition, a lot of pipelines, record numbers of pipelines are being built. So I think the Hormuz Strait's not going to be quite as important as it was in the past.
Now, on Canada, if I could ask you, you said that there's a deal, an agreement in place. Are you willing to lower tariffs on steel and aluminum?
Well, we're looking at that.
In order to get farmers...
Well, we're getting zero for our farmers. You know, farmers have been hurt very badly by Canada, and they won't be paying any tariffs anymore. And we may bring some of the tariffs down to a level where other countries are, because Canada was paying a higher tariff. Canada was paying us a higher tariff. So we are, look, we have a very nice relationship with leadership right now, and we'll see. But we did a 3-day pause. It was supposed to be a 50% straight across the board tariff. That was going into effect at 7 o'clock this morning. And I delayed it at the request of Canada for 3 days so we can iron out the details. But it's going to be a wonderful deal, hopefully a wonderful deal for everybody. Yeah.
Mr. President, earlier today you said North Korea has something like 57 nuclear weapons. They've been expanding their nuclear program. Is your goal in trying to re-engage with Chairman Kim still denuclearization? And what makes you think you could be successful now when you weren't?
Well, I don't want to talk about that, but I do have a good relationship with Kim Jong-un. As you know, you've seen. He didn't like Biden. He didn't like Obama. He didn't like anybody, but he likes me, and I just got along with him very good. We had great meetings. We speak, and I think our nation, and I think other nations, frankly, whether it's Japan or South Korea, they're a lot safer if I'm president than if somebody else is president. Now, I didn't like the fact that we're doing these massive military exercises, really against North Korea. It was a exercise against North Korea. When I'm friendly with him, when we have, I don't see anything happening for certainly 2.5 years. It's not going to happen with me, but I don't see anything happening. And I was not happy when South Korea said, no, they're not interested in helping us with the Hormuz Strait, and yet they get 60% of their oil from the Hormuz Strait. I said, would you like to help us? He said, no, thank you. I said, that's nice, please, thank you. He made us a lot of money. I didn't like that. So I felt that to do we were doing a massive war exercise. I thought that was very insulting to somebody that, frankly, has been, during my term at least, very well behaved. Yeah.
On the bond market, is the administration done enough to stabilize the bond market after yesterday?
Well, I think it is, but I mean, it's very sad. Every time we do great, we announce great numbers, the interest rates go up. And they go up because they want to stop inflation. They should go down because the country's strong. You know, I see countries like Switzerland where they're the #1 lowest interest rates, 0.5%, and we pay 3.5%. And yet, if we stop doing business, for instance, I have the absolute right to cut off all business with a country like Switzerland, like anything. So why are they prime if I can cut off the business and they are no longer functional? And yet they're considered to be like an elite country. And I don't want to single them out because there's 60 countries like that. They live off the United States. So why are we paying higher interest rates than them? You know, in the old days, we used to pay the lowest interest rate, no matter how we were doing, because we sort of generate for the whole world. And I want to see it where interest rate, and I have to tell you, we have a wonderful chairman. I think he's doing a great job. The problem is he has a board, and it's a political board. People put in by Obama, Biden, and me. And there are quite a few members still left, as you understand. And so they vote to raise interest rates. I don't know if they're doing it because they think they're doing a good thing or because they like the politics of it. But my point is, years ago, 25 years ago, when the country announced good numbers, interest rates went down because we had a stronger country. Now when we announce good numbers, the better they are, the worse it is for interest rates. So we could have a GDP of 10 times. You know, they say, oh, it's going to be 3 times or 4.1. We could have a GDP of 10, 12, 15 times if they just leave us alone. Let the rates go down. We should pay the lowest interest rates. You know, every point of interest is $600 billion. Think of that. Every point of interest is $600 billion. 2 points means we make a fortune, but we keep driving it up. It's a very unfair system, and I've said it now for a long time. When our country does well, interest rates should go down. I mean, every time I hear our country's doing well, I say, oh, it's too bad, because they lift up interest rates. They should drop interest rates because it means we have a strong country, and it's all based on credit, meaning good credit, and we have the best credit. And we'd pay off the debt very easily, very quickly. But if somebody's paying a half a point, we should be paying a half a point, not somebody else. Right now, I think it's Switzerland has the lowest. Again, and I don't want to single them out, but if you take our business away from Switzerland, they have problems. So why are they paying a half a point and we're paying much more than that? Does that make sense to anybody? I mean, it seems pretty simple to me, but it's a killer. You know, I almost like to hear bad numbers. I'm saying, I hope we have bad numbers today. Interest rates will go down. It doesn't make sense. When our business is good, we should lower interest rates. And then you want to build America, you're going to see a building like you've never seen. We're doing great, even despite the fact of what's happening with interest rates.
Should Americans be concerned about this volatility in the bond market?
No, I don't think so, because like I said, our country is doing so well despite interest rates. We have interest rates that are they're actually artificially high. They raise them for no reason. And you can't go out to the market when you have a Fed that's raising interest. You can't say, oh, I want to pay 3 points less than what the Fed says you're supposed to be paying. So, no, I don't think so at all. I think we have a very powerful country, and we're powering through these ridiculous interest rates. They're ridiculous. Look, when our country is strong, interest rates should go down. When our country is weak, frankly, they should go up. But this country is strong. There's never been in history the kind of money coming into a country as we have right now. Trillions and trillions of dollars are being invested in plants, factories, everything. Everything you can think of. We're the hottest country in the world. We are by far, and I said it 100 times, the king of Saudi Arabia, but many, many people, they said 2 years ago, 3 years ago, your country was dead. Now you have the hottest country in the world. That's what we have. We have the hottest country in the world, and these people are helping us a lot. Thank you very much, everybody. Come on to the Oval Office. We're going to take them into the Oval Office. We're going to show them a real office, okay? Their offices are nice, but this is nice.
Did you watch Donald Graham's debate, President? Thank you, press.
And that was President Trump's remarks at the White House talking about making the U.S. the global leader in finance and cryptocurrency as well. So what he was saying, first of all, he praised the financial leaders in the room and describing them as some of the country's brightest minds in finance, in crypto, in technology. And then he was highlighting the CFTC's Innovation Advisory Committee, which is meeting for the first time and is going to advise the government how to approach emerging financial technologies and markets. So, of course, he praises the chairman, and then he's emphasizing financial innovation in the United States, mentioning crypto markets, prediction markets, finance, decentralized finance as well. And President Trump is saying that financial technology is an international competition. He's saying that the U.S. is competing with other countries to control these technologies, these markets. And then he's saying financial leadership has a connection to broader technological leadership, saying that the U.S. is leading in AI by a lot. So the overall speech is talking about deregulation, financial deregulation, and then technological innovation as strategic advantages for the United States. Okay, let's take a break now. The results are in for the Florida primaries. with a major upset for the DSA in the House race. How lawmakers are reacting and the president to the nominees. More news after this break.
I'm Amy Grant, and I want to talk to you from my heart about the heart. I would have been the last person on the list to say this woman has a problem with her heart. So no, there was nothing about my life that said, you have a ticking time bomb in your chest. But I did. I wound up in the office of a cardiologist because I was there with my husband. And at the tail end of that, the cardiologist looked at me and said, I want to see you. No one was more surprised than I was to learn I was living with a rare heart condition. He said, Amy, this condition, you'll be fine, and then catastrophic. A few months later, I had open heart surgery that saved my life. And I owe it to the research and life-saving medical breakthroughs developed by the American Heart Association. That's why I'm asking you to join me and become a monthly donor to the American Heart Association. Please call now or go to helpheart.org. For only $19 a month, just 63 cents a day, you can help fund the next medical breakthrough, get the next person trained in CPR, and get the next hospital certified in high-quality cardiovascular care. If this could happen to me, it could happen to anybody. Heart disease is America's #1 killer, but your support can save your life or the life of someone you love. Give $19 a month with your credit card and we'll send you this special t-shirt you can wear to show you're part of a community of monthly donors working to help save more lives like mine. I'm grateful for the American Heart Association. Their research gave me more time to do the things I love with the people I love. So listen to your heart. I'm here today because I did. Please call the number on your screen or go to helpheart.org now to become a monthly donor and help save even more lives. Thank you.
MyPillow's second annual mega sale is finally here. Get our patented premium MyPillows that adjust to your exact individual needs to give you the best sleep of your life.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
Now for the lowest price ever. Kings, $19.98, Queens, only $18.98. And Giza Dream bed sheets, the best sheets in history, for as low as $29.98. Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, towels that actually dry you, what a concept, now only $39.98. And our made in the USA mattresses and mattress toppers as low as $99.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But that's not all. Order right now and we'll ship your order absolutely free.
Results are in for yesterday's Florida primaries. This was the last state to see a significant push by the DSA before the general election in November, and the results are shedding more light on voter sentiment. NTD's Fiona G has the latest.
A major upset for the DSA in Florida's 25th District House race, with Representative Jerry Moskowitz winning over DSA-backed candidate Oliver Larkin. A major point of contention during that race was Israel. Larkin, a major proponent of ending U.S. military aid to the country, with Moskowitz being a vocal supporter of Israel. AIPAC actually released a congratulations last night to a slew of candidates who are pro-Israel, including Moskowitz. Now, the gubernatorial race in Florida turned out pretty much how we'd expected, with Representative Byron Donalds clinching the GOP nomination with President Trump's endorsement. And on the Democrat side, we saw former Republican turned Democrat David Jolly taking that spot. Florida also had a special primary race for the Senate position that was left behind by Secretary of State Marco Rubio when he went off to that position as Secretary of State. We saw there that Senator Ashley Moody, she won the GOP nomination, again with President Trump's backing. On the Democrat side, it was DSA candidate Angie Nixon who won. President Trump weighed in on that win, saying he believes that Nixon will, quote, go down to certain defeat at the hands of Ashley Moody. And this is a sentiment we see repeated across the country in that they're saying DSA candidates may be winning their primaries, but they face a huge issue of electability when it comes to the general election in November. Senator Moody also weighed in, saying she believes this is not just a race for a Senate seat, this is a race for the future of the country. Watch.
There are people right now that are signing up proudly for a socialist party, many would call it a communist party. And they are bending on everything that this country stands for to join this radical fervor.
And up north in the Senate race in Alaska, we're still waiting for the final numbers to come out, but AP has called a win for incumbent Republican Senator Dan Sullivan and former Democratic Representative Mary Peltola. Remember, Alaska has that all-party primary, which means that the top 4 vote-getters, regardless of party affiliation, will be advancing to the general election. Now, we saw that the second Dan Sullivan, because there is a second Dan Sullivan running in this race, he's trailing behind in a distant third place right now, but only around 80% of votes are in, and AP has not called the race for the 3rd and 4th places in Alaska. So that's what we're looking for next. Don, back to you.
Okay, Fiona, thank you. President Trump said today he had urged GOP Representative Corey Mills to drop out of his Florida primary race. The embattled Republican lost yesterday to former news anchor Ryan Elijah. In a Truth Social post today, the president saying, quote, "I told Congressman Corey Mills of Florida, a friend of mine, to get out of the race, but he wouldn't listen. He thought he could win, so who could blame him?" The president adds, "We now have a great candidate, Ryan Elijah, running in his place. Ryan stands for everything MAGA and is respected by all. He has my complete and total endorsement." Newly released documents reveal the Chinese Communist Party accessed voter registration files in the U.S. and plotted to interfere in the 2020 election, while the U.S. intelligence hid the evidence. Here's more with John Solomon, chair of the White House Government Transparency Task Force, breaking down the key documents.
The White House Government Transparency Task Force recently declassified documents revealing Chinese Communist Party influence efforts during the 2020 election. But a declassified memo released on Tuesday reveals U.S. intelligence kept the evidence hidden out of fear it would brand the agency as part of the deep state. John Solomon, chair of the task force, an award-winning journalist and founder of Just a News, spoke to American thought leaders about some of the key documents.
China began penetrating and collecting Americans' voter registration files. They bought some lawfully, they stole some illegally, and they hacked some illegally. They used all 3 tactics. And they eventually got enough information on 220 million voter registration files.
Solomon said the Chinese hackers could use the non-public data to vote in the election.
You could go in and vote for me early, and then I would show up in the polls on election day because maybe I'm an election day voter, and they would tell me, "Sorry, Mr. Solomon, you can't vote because you already voted." And it would have been China voting for you.
He said there were other nefarious things that China was in a position to do.
China could have gone in and changed your address in the voter file. And you'd show up and say, "Here's my license." I'm like, "Sir, you're not at that license. You're registered over here. You can't vote, or the best you could do is vote provisionally, and maybe we will, or maybe we won't count you."
According to Solomon, the intelligence community saw this as a threat in January of 2020, but they didn't alert the states that were being targeted. And by 2023, tens of millions of files in 18 states were hacked. He believes all 50 states' voter files have now been accessed.
China, according to an FBI confidential human source, twice validated, not once, but twice checked out as good by the FBI, reported that China was sending some driver's licenses into America to possibly request ballots and to create fake votes for Joe Biden.
Solomon says the FBI ordered that the report be destroyed, preventing intelligence agencies from investigating further. He revealed even deeper secrets about the intelligence community, including a dual justice system and what he called a shadow government. You can watch the full American Thought Leaders interview on Epoch TV.
No more refundable tax credits for illegal immigrants. The Trump administration is strengthening enforcement of what federal law that bars illegal immigrants from receiving public benefits. The Treasury Department and the IRS are proposing new regulations that clarify who are eligible for refundable tax credits. The rules apply to the adoption tax credit, the child tax credit, the American Opportunity Tax Credit, and the earned income tax credit. Only U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents, and other qualified foreigners, such as asylees and refugees, will be eligible for the tax credits. Illegal immigrants will not be eligible. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent commenting, quote, "Under President Trump, the days of illegal aliens collecting taxpayer-funded benefits are over. American taxpayers should not be forced to foot the bill for benefits going to those who are barred by law from receiving them." The Treasury Department is acting to ease the bond market amid surging yields. In a surprise move, the department announces it will double the scale of its buybacks of long-term Treasury bonds. The move comes as the 30-year Treasury yield rose to its highest level since 2007 this week. Investors have been selling off U.S. Treasury bonds this summer amid worries over the Iran war and the rising national debt, pushing up the yield. Higher bond yields are unnerving for global investors as well as the Treasury Department. They're usually higher mean borrowing rates for the government and for consumers. The Treasury Department announces that it will buy back 10 to 30-year bonds with at least $4 billion per operation, instead of $2 billion. The changes are in effect from September 9th to November 4th. The announcement of the buyback drove down long-term bond yields sharply today. U.S. critical infrastructure could be at risk of cyber attacks. Intelligence agencies are warning that unidentified hackers are actively trying to breach devices made by Siemens. The warning says all Siemens S7 series industrial control systems are at risk. U.S. water facilities and other critical infrastructure systems use the devices for monitor and operation purposes. The hacking threat puts multiple sectors at risk, including manufacturing, energy, water and wastewater, chemical, food, and agriculture facilities. Intelligence agencies warn that compromises of these Siemens devices could lead to the disruption of critical processes, safety incidents, downtime, or equipment damage. This comes amid widespread cyber attacks targeting local water systems in multiple states in recent weeks. Cybersecurity experts suspect the recent attacks are likely linked to Iran. A former Facebook engineering director is testifying in Meta's civil trial in Oakland federal court. He accuses the company of ignoring internal research on the harm its platforms can cause children and teens. Arturo Bejar worked at Meta from 2009 to 2015 before returning to the company as an independent contractor from 2019 to 2021. He's the first witness in a landmark trial over claims brought by a group of states. The lawsuits accuse Meta of designing its platforms to addict young users, misleading the public about their safety, and illegally collecting data from users under 13. California Attorney General Rob Bonta laying out the state's case against the company.
Meta has designed and deployed a dangerous product with dangerous features that they knew would create excessive use and compulsive use by children, and it would create mental health harms, including things like anxiety and depression, like body image issues, like addictive tendencies, like learning loss. They knew all of that. They knew their product was dangerous, and they lied to the public. They lied to Congress.
Bejar first took the stand yesterday after opening statements. He says he raised concerns to the Meta leadership after running surveys of teen experiences on Instagram between 2019 and 2021. Meta denies the state's allegations, saying it stands by its efforts to protect teens. The company says that Bejar's opinions are beyond the scope of his work at the company. The trial is expected to last 6 weeks. The Pentagon orders 30 U.S. universities to audit foreign infiltration. We examine these Chinese Communist Party's century-old playbook after the break. Stay tuned.
Summer should be full of moments like these. But when school doors close, millions of kids lose more than access to the meals they counted on. They lose energy and confidence.
Usually in the summer times, it's a challenge. They're home all day, so we need more food in the house, more snacks in the house, more than normally when they're in school.
Sometimes I just wonder, like, man, are we gonna make it to this week?
Families across America, and right where you live, are facing a summer hunger crisis, stretching every dollar in meal. But costs keep climbing. Call or go online now to helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month. just 63 cents a day, to put healthy meals within reach for local families. And your first gift can double an impact.
Having access to a good meal during the summer gives me more energy.
Feeding America is the only nationwide network with over 250 local food banks, food pantries, and meal programs, delivering food where kids already gather. But we can't be there without neighbors like you.
It's like a weight off my shoulders. Without them, my kids wouldn't be fed.
Your gift today will provide more than food. You'll help fuel growth and potential, because summer should help kids move forward, not hold them back.
Your body gets tired and you need the proper stuff to help you get through that.
Please call or go online now. Give $19 a month, and your first gift can double an impact. We'll send you this free canvas bag as a reminder of the food and hope you're delivering.
Them having good meals that are nutritious to help them to concentrate gives me hope for them to have a good future.
It feels really good knowing that my kids have the food that they need. It really puts me at ease and it helps out.
Give now to help local families put food on the table and nourish a stronger future. Call or go online to helpfeedingamerica.org, and your first gift can double an impact.
Is deep sea fish oil really healthy? Due to pollution in the oceans, most fish contain heavy metal elements and radioactive substances. That's why it's so important to choose a pure source of omega-3. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3 is made from purslane and perilla seeds, which are rich in nutrients and minerals. It effectively improves brain power and is beneficial to the heart's health. Puritan Green Vegetable Omega-3. Eat 2 a day and you'll feel brand new.
Hey, have you heard what's happening at Mathis Home? Get Labor Day deals on the latest living rooms.
We make it easy to get the styles you love at incredible values. Plus, you don't have to wait. Take 5 years to pay with easy monthly payments.
Upgrade to power with this luxurious leather sofa from Ashley for comfort at the touch of a button. Plus, with our all-new 60-month financing, you can take it home today with a payment of just $50 a month. Relax and get comfortable now with Labor Day deals at your furniture superstore, Mathis Home.
Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump pausing tariffs on Canada at the 11th hour. What progress has been made and how China comes into play. Results are in for the Florida primaries, with a major upset for the DSA in the House race. How lawmakers and the president are reacting to the nominees. Newly declassified documents reveal the Chinese Communist Party hacked voter files in 2020, but U.S. intelligence kept it a secret. A task force leader breaks down the key documents. A former top advisor to Dr. Anthony Fauci admits to conspiring to hide government records related to COVID research, the prison time he could face. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is boosting addiction recovery programs for parents to help keep families together, Jason Blair has more. With the Pentagon requiring 30 U.S. universities to audit their infiltration from foreign adversaries, we explore how the Chinese Communist Party's playbook, a century in the making.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Thank you for joining us. President Trump putting a last-minute pause on new tariffs against Canada as he cites a potential trade deal. It comes as the administration has been seeking to protect American industries from unfair trade practices by countries including China. NTD's White House correspondent Iris Tao has the latest behind this pause.
President Trump at the 11th hour last night putting a pause to 50% of new tariffs against Canadian goods that would total about roughly $28 billion worth of them. President Trump saying that upon the finalization of documents, they now have a good deal. Here's him speaking earlier this morning with reporters. Watch.
Our farmers were paying tremendous tariffs into Canada, and those tariffs are going to be totally eviscerated, down to zero. So subject to the finalization of documents, we have a deal with Canada.
And those tariffs were set to go into effect at midnight, but Trump reversed it last minute. President Trump also saying that the latest breakthrough comes after intense talks between the two sides in the days leading up to yesterday, and then also a direct and a good phone call, according to President Trump, between him and Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. In a news statement, meanwhile, the Canadian Prime Minister is saying that substantial progress has been made, although there is important work still to be done. Specifically, the U.S. Trade Representative in a news statement saying that in this potential deal that he says he feels optimistic about, it would include, for example, comprehensive market access for all American goods, as well as digital trade alignment and economic security commitments that would all benefit American industries and American workers. Now, all of this comes after last month, President Trump threatened to hit a 50% tariffs against Canadian goods, for example, its alcohol, hockey equipment, its cement, as well as dairy products. The administration has been criticizing Canada for treating American industries, in particular auto industries, unfairly, also singling out China in Canada in particular for being the only two countries that retaliated against American tariffs. Let's take a look.
So I've got two countries in the world that have retaliated against the United States for trade measures. The People's Republic of China and Canada. That's not the kind of company you really want to be running it.
And that was the trade representative speaking earlier this week. Of course, now all eyes are on if this current pause of tariffs for only 3 days will actually pave the way for an actual trade agreement between the U.S. and Canada going forward. Back to you.
And Iris, as well, the president this morning just unveiled another construction project taking place at the White House. What is it for?
Sure. So it's an actually impromptu invitation to the press all of a sudden for them to go out to the South Lawn and join the president as he unveils this new and ongoing project going on at the White House, which is to add a helipad at the South Lawn to, of course, make it easier for helicopters and Marine One to land. But the president saying that there's also another purpose. Here's what he said. Watch.
This will be much better for state arrival. And in fact, instead of being on grass now, they'll be using that almost like a table. They can have events on it. They can have people go there for cocktails and then walk to the ballroom after that's finished.
And the president really showed how much personal touches and personal input that he put into this project. For example, by talking about details such as the radial cut of the granite, as well as getting rid of the potholes, etc. And President Trump was also putting his own name on a giant slab of granite that he says will be flipped and also later actually laid into the helipad at the White House. Back to you.
Okay, Iris, thank you for the report. U.S. critical infrastructure could be at risk of cyber attacks. Intelligence agencies are warning that unidentified hackers are actively trying to breach devices made by Siemens. The warning says all Siemens S7 series industrial control systems are at risk. U.S. water facilities and other critical infrastructure systems use devices for monitoring and operation purposes. The hacking threat puts multiple sectors at risk, including manufacturing, energy, water and wastewater, chemical, food, and agricultural facilities. Intelligence agencies warn that compromises of the Siemens devices could lead to the disruption of critical processes, safety incidents, downtime, or equipment damage. This comes amid widespread cyber attacks targeting local water systems in multiple states in recent weeks. Cybersecurity experts expect the recent attacks are linked to Iran. A former top science advisor to Dr. Anthony Fauci is facing possible prison time after pleading guilty to a federal conspiracy charge. NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the case.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony...
Dr. David Morin spent 16 years as a senior advisor inside the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, the agency Dr. Fauci led for decades. Prosecutors say Morin's conspired to dodge Freedom of Information Act requests tied to a bat coronavirus research grant connected to the Wuhan Institute of Virology, corresponding through his personal Gmail account instead of his government email to keep records out of public view. It's a pattern he was pressed on 2 years earlier during a congressional hearing.
But on February 24th, 2021, you wrote, quote, "I learned from our FOIA lady here how to make emails disappear after I'm FOIA'd, but before the search starts. So I think we are all safe. Plus, I deleted most of those earlier emails after sending them to Gmail," end quote. Did the NIH FOIA office instruct you on how to delete emails or avoid FOIA?
No.
Moritz told lawmakers he hadn't deleted evidence, but under his own guilty plea, he now admits doing exactly that and hiding grant-related communications.
On October 25th, 2021, another scientist wrote, quote, David is concerned about the privacy of text and other messages from his cell phone to you and me because he has been using a government phone. This came from Tony, end quote. Sir, did you ever have any conversations with Dr. Fauci regarding using personal phone or email to communicate with Dr. Daszak?
I don't remember it. It's possible. I probably wouldn't have remembered it, and I don't remember it. He and I usually never talked about that kind of stuff.
Court documents show Moritz accepted wine as a gift for what a co-conspirator called his behind-the-scenes shenanigans, and was offered further perks, including meals at Michelin-starred restaurants, in exchange for helping push back on the theory that COVID leaked from a lab. He's due to be sentenced November 12th in federal court in Maryland, and faces up to 5 years behind bars. The case lands as a separate push to hold Fauci himself in contempt of Congress sits with the Justice Department. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
And joining us now to discuss about Anthony Fauci's former aide David Moritz pleading guilty to conspiring to destroy public records is Gerard Filitti, senior counsel and attorney at the Lawfare Project. All right, Gerard, good afternoon. Thank you for being here with us today. Can you speak to the significance of this? What does this guilty plea establish legally?
Well, what this establishes legally more is what he has done is he has admitted that the Fauci-era NIAID response involved a deliberate criminal scheme to hide records, manipulate official decision-making, and covertly protect the nonprofit that sat between NIH and the Wuhan Institute of Virology. This leads to unanswered questions about whether there was another cover-up involved and what Dr. Fauci knew. So essentially, this admission, this conviction, sets the stage for questions about what Dr. Fauci knew, when he knew it, and the extent of his involvement in the scheme.
So he also told Congress, he told lawmakers at the time he did not destroy records. So, I mean, based on that, now that he's pleaded guilty, could he also be charged for lying to Congress?
Not likely. The charges, I think, contemplated a plea deal in which he would not be charged for anything else. Technically, yes, he did, but I think the plea agreement that he negotiated will obviate that. And the sentence that he will receive for pleading guilty to this conspiracy charge that the government agreed to is more than what he would receive for lying to Congress.
So what does the law say for government employees? Are they prohibited from deleting emails? I mean, at what point does deleting or moving communications is a criminal offense?
Well, there are two things. First of all, it's a criminal offense for government officials to destroy official emails. And those are emails that are sent and received in your official capacity. There are protocols that need to be followed. Every government agency has a FOIA officer, Freedom of Information Act officer, that helps delineate what records must be retained and under what circumstances. Because ultimately, federal law provides for public access to records, presumptive public access. And that means that you cannot delete your emails, you cannot delete your records, you cannot delete your drafts. So knowingly deleting these things is a federal crime. And the other part of this is that he also used his private email to conduct official business, which is also something that is prohibited by law. Okay, so you cannot do official government business on your personal account. Do they have to, if one does that, do they have to keep those emails as government records? You do. If you do, for whatever reason, use anything other than your official account, you are obligated to provide those emails to your custodian of records, to your FOIA officer, and those need to be maintained like everything else. It's tougher when we talk about digital communications. It's tougher when we talk about text messages, for example, but even those need to be preserved. So there is a very wide duty of preservation of records for government employees. So talk to us more about this guilty plea. Does anything in the plea establish that the government was concealing evidence about COVID origins, or is that beyond what the plea proves? Well, it's beyond what the plea proves, but what it proves is that there was a conspiracy to destroy records, a conspiracy to keep facts from becoming public. What those facts are precisely, we don't know, because we have not had those answers either in congressional testimony or in court testimony. So we can't say with certainty that there was a conspiracy regarding the origins of COVID or the funding of virology research in communist China. But what we do know is that records were intentionally deleted, and that the records that were deleted involved an organization, a nonprofit, that was a middleman of sorts between the U.S. government and the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So it certainly raises questions about U.S. government involvement with the institute, and if there was anything that we did not want the public to know.
So what are the potential consequences that Morin faces?
Morin is more likely than not going to serve a term of in prison. I think the sentence is not going to be long, considering that he is a first-time offender. He cooperated. Ultimately, he pleaded guilty. He provided an admission, and he provided some sort of contrition for what he had done. But he can expect a prison term, and he will have this conviction of a felony on his record going forward, which will make it much more difficult for him to obtain some employments and certainly not government clearance. So this impacts the rest of his life. But what it does not necessarily impact is Dr. Fauci himself, because Fauci still has the pardon in his pocket, which would protect him even if he is more directly linked to the destruction of records or any other cover-up or crime.
Right, because the agreement refers to Morin's conspiring with others, right? So, I mean, Fauci is off the table. Could there be other additional charges?
There can be. It depends on who those others are and what information the government has. One of the things that we should be looking for is whether we will see other charges, because Morin's, I think, would have cooperated with the government and provided them with names and information to the extent that the government did not already have them, so that they would not be unidentified co-conspirators, but they would be named. And then the question becomes of whether there are independent charges that those people would be subjected to. Ultimately, I think the government is also interested in looking at this nonprofit in New York, which is not covered by a lot of the government privileges that we see some employees. And I think that we can expect that Morin's might have signed a cooperation agreement if there is any future prosecution.
Okay, just one last thing. Out of curiosity, does Morin's pleading guilty change anything about Fauci's contempt of Congress charge that potentially he's facing?
It does not. Fauci's contempt of Congress is for refusing to answer questions and for asserting the Fifth Amendment. But now we also have a better idea of why he asserted the Fifth Amendment, because Morin's conviction does lead to questions about what Dr. Fauci knew, when he knew it, and whether he had previously testified truthfully about COVID, about anything, pretty much. So this commission by Morin's, this conviction, raises a lot of questions about Dr. Fauci that I don't think we will have answers to anytime soon because of that pardon and because Fauci has no reason to speak, and now that that other people are starting to come out and tell the truth about what happened.
Yeah, you're right. It raises the question whether deleting these emails, this information, whether there was something to hide. Yeah, it certainly raises questions. Gerard, thank you for speaking with us today.
My pleasure, Don. Thank you.
Newly declassified documents raise questions about alleged Chinese election interference and why U.S. intelligence withheld key evidence. More news after this break. Stay tuned.
Introducing the Quest-Wise Soothing Herbal Eye Patches. It comes with 30 pairs and can be used to help combat tired and strained eyes. The natural herbal formula provides a cooling, minty, and refreshing effect that stimulates natural tears and awakens your tired eyes. Placing the eye patches around your eyes helps to reduce dryness and massages acupuncture points. They can be worn while reading, studying, using electronics, and provide hours of long-lasting relief.
I trod on my glasses yesterday, and I had to pay up front for a new pair that I can't even pick up for another 10 days. So I looked for another way, and I found Select Specs. I ordered online. My new glasses just arrived this morning, and I can pay over the next few weeks. This is the way to buy glasses.
See now, pay later with Select Specs. Next day delivery and deferred payment options. Only at selectspecs.com.
There's a whirlwind of emotion and activity going on in this painting. And there's chaos all around and threat from below. The wolves surrounding her, and they're anything but unmoved. They're moving all the time, and we sense that. But this little girl remains.
I am blind, but I need not see. I know this road is there for me. If I'm really free.
Results are in for yesterday's Florida primaries. This was the last state to see a significant push by the DSA before the general election in November. And the results are shedding more light on voter sentiment. NTD correspondent Fiona G. is in Washington, D.C. with the details.
A major upset for the DSA in Florida's 25th District House race, with Representative Jerry Moskowitz winning over DSA-backed candidate Oliver Larkin. A major point of contention during that race was Israel. Larkin, a major proponent of ending U.S. military aid to the country, with Moskowitz being a vocal supporter of Israel. AIPAC actually released a congratulations last night to a slew of candidates who are pro-Israel, including Moskowitz. Now, the gubernatorial race in Florida turned out pretty much how we'd expected, with Representative Byron Donalds clinching the GOP nomination with President Trump's endorsement. And on the Democrat side, we saw former Republican turned Democrat David Jolly taking that spot. Florida also had a special primary race for the Senate position that was left behind by Secretary of State Marco Rubio when he went off to that position as Secretary of State. We saw there that Senator Ashley Moody, she won the GOP nomination, again with President Trump's backing. On the Democrat side, it was DSA candidate Angie Nixon who won. President Trump weighed in on that win, saying he believes that Nixon will, quote, go down to certain defeat at the hands of Ashley Moody. And this is a sentiment we see repeated across the country, in that they're saying DSA candidates may be winning their primaries, but they face a huge issue of electability when it comes to the general election in November. Senator Moody also weighed in, saying she believes this is not just a race for a Senate seat, this is a race for the future of the country. Watch.
There are people right now that are signing up proudly for a socialist party. Many would call it a communist party. And they are bending on everything that this country stands for to join this radical fervor.
And up north in the Senate race in Alaska, we're still waiting for the final numbers to come out, but AP has called a win for incumbent Republican Senator Dan Sullivan and former Democratic Representative Mary Peltola. Remember, Alaska has that all-party primary, which means that the top 4 vote getters, regardless of party affiliation, will be advancing to the general election. Now, we saw that the second Dan Sullivan, because there is a second Dan Sullivan running in this race, he's trailing behind in a distant third place right now, but only around 80% of votes are in, and AP has not called the race for the 3rd and 4th places in Alaska. So that's what we're looking for next. Don, back to you.
Okay, Fiona, thank you. A Chinese national has been charged with voter fraud in Massachusetts. The Justice Department saying he submitted a fraudulent voter registration and ballot. The DOJ alleges that Yu Peng-sun impersonated another Chinese national in the 2024 presidential election. Sun is also accused of submitting 2 fraudulent immigration forms on behalf of the Chinese national and his wife. After registering to vote and casting a ballot, Sun allegedly sent a tip to Homeland Security investigations implicating the couple in 2026. The DOJ says the couple had their green cards confiscated as a result. Sun has been charged with fraudulent registration and fraudulent voting. He faces a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison for each count and is subject to deportation. Newly released documents reveal the Chinese Communist Party accessed voter U.S. registration files and plotted to interfere in the 2020 election, while U.S. intelligence hid the evidence. Here's more with John Solomon, chair of the White House Government Transparency Task Force, breaking down the key documents.
The White House Government Transparency Task Force recently declassified documents revealing Chinese Communist Party influence efforts during the 2020 election. But a declassified memo released on Tuesday reveals U.S. intelligence kept the evidence hidden out of fear it would brand the agency as part of the deep state. John Solomon, chair of the task force, an award-winning journalist and founder of Just a News, spoke to American thought leaders about some of the key documents.
China began penetrating and collecting Americans' voter registration files. They bought some lawfully, they stole some illegally, and they hacked some illegally. They used all 3 tactics. And they eventually got enough information on 220 million voter registration files.
Solomon said the Chinese hackers could use the non-public data to vote in the election.
You could go in and vote for me early, and then I would show up in the polls on election day because maybe I'm an election day voter, and they would tell me, sorry, Mr. Solomon, you can't vote because you already voted. And it would have been China voting for you.
He said there were other nefarious things that China was in a position to do.
China could have gone in and changed your address in the voter file. And you'd show up and say, here's my license. I'm like, sir, you're not at that license. You're registered over here. You can't vote, or the best you can do is vote provisionally, and maybe we will, or maybe we won't count you.
According to Solomon, the intelligence community saw this as a threat in January of 2020, but they didn't alert the states that were being targeted. And by 2023, tens of millions of files in 18 states were hacked. He believes all 50 states' voter files have now been accessed.
China, according to an FBI confidential human source, twice validated, not once, but twice checked out as good by the FBI, reported that China was sending some driver's licenses into America to possibly request ballots and to create fake votes for Joe Biden.
Solomon says the FBI ordered that the report be destroyed, preventing intelligence agencies from investigating further. He revealed even deeper secrets about the intelligence community, including a dual justice system and what he called a shadow government. You can watch the full American Thought Leaders interview on Epoch TV.
Police have arrested a 19-year-old from El Salvador suspected of killing a woman in Virginia. The Department of Homeland Security says he was released into the U.S. under the Biden administration after entering the country illegally. Fairfax County detectives have taken Alexis Antonio Cedillos Campos into custody in connection with the murder of Carmen Lislet Puc. According to police, Cedillos Campos took a knife and gloves from the restaurant where they worked before fatally stabbing Puc in a local park. Investigators say they were in an intimate relationship. In a post on X, DHS said, quote, the Biden administration recklessly unleashed millions of unvetted illegal aliens into American communities and abused the law to do so. DHS added, quote, we are urging Governor Spanberger to put her community first and turn over this criminal illegal alien to ICE. The Treasury Department is acting to ease the bond market amid surging yields. In a surprise move, the department announces it will double the scale of its buybacks of long-term Treasury bonds. The move comes as the 30-year Treasury yield rose to its highest level since 2007 this week. Investors have been selling off U.S. Treasury bonds this summer amid worries over the Iran war and the rising national debt, pushing up the yield. Higher bond yields are unnerving for global investors as well as the Treasury Department. They usually mean higher borrowing rates for the government and for consumers. The Treasury Department announces that it will buy back 10 to 30-year bonds with at least $4 billion per operation instead of $2 billion. The changes are in effect from September 9th to November 4th. The announcement of the buyback drove down long-term bond yields sharply today. Statistics show that more than 1 in 3 children entering foster care do so because of parental substance abuse. The Trump administration announces new efforts to strengthen preventative care for families struggling with addiction, aiming to intervene before a crisis forces children into the system. NTD correspondent Jason Blair has more.
Too often, government intervenes after addiction has already pushed a family into crisis, and a child is at risk of entering foster care.
Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is announcing expanded federal support for 2 programs that target addiction treatment for parents with a strong focus on prevention.
The first is the family-based recovery, and the second is called the Wellness Recovery Action Plan, or WRAP.
Kennedy says acting states can use them to reach families earlier as well as claim federal reimbursements immediately. He says Iowa is the first state to act.
Governor Reynolds and her team have already updated Iowa's prevention plan to put one of these approaches to work.
Federal statistics show that about 34% of children over the age of 1 put into foster care are a result of parents suffering from drug or alcohol addiction. For children under 1, it's 55%.
The early years of a child's life are critical. We can go to them before it becomes a crisis, in their homes, in their communities, and in places where family life is actually happening.
Kennedy says the Trump administration will continue to prioritize programs that demonstrate success when put into action.
We will support approaches that produce those outcomes, including peer support, community organizations, and faith-based organizations.
The announcement is part of the Trump administration's Great American Recovery Initiative, which started in January. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Jason Blair, NTD News.
New federal data shows U.S. prescription drug prices fell 0.8% in July and are down 3.1% from a year ago. This marks the steepest year-over-year drop in over half a century. Joining us now to discuss is Gerald Commission, interim CEO of Data Meds AI. So, Gerald, thank you for being here with us today. So, number one question here, why are prices falling compared to a year ago?
Well, I think the primary thing driving the lowering of drug prices is this move in the GLP-1 market towards cash pay. We all know that with respect to insurance, there's a high list price, and then there's a variety of rebates that result in a lower out-of-pocket cost for consumers. The Trump RX strategy, as well as the strategy of Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, has been to cut all that out and just have patients pay cash pay. And as a result of that, and the large number of people using GLP-1 drugs, on average, the price has gone down. In addition, the negotiations around Medicare payments have also contributed to that view that lower prices for drugs are there, but that doesn't mean that we're spending less on drugs. We're actually spending still 10% more per year on drugs.
Okay, we'll talk about that a bit later, but what do you think about President Trump's most favored nation drug pricing proposal?
Well, I think it's an interesting strategy. I think we'll see how it plays out. I think the objective is certainly one that is laudable. The challenge, of course, is that the high prices in the U.S. are typically the result of the fact that drugs are launched in the U.S. first, and the U.S. consumer gets access to the most innovative drugs. That's kind of the silent pact that's done with the pharmaceutical companies. They charge more here, but the access is greater here. I think with what's going on internationally, there's some challenges to that model that pharmaceutical companies and the biotech industry are trying to change. And so while it's a laudable goal, it's something that needs to be worked on.
Okay, so why are people still paying more for drugs, despite official data showing that on average drug prices are falling?
Well, if you're in another country, and for example, I was born in Canada, the price of a drug is completely not direct to the consumer. The consumer never thinks about that. There's no such thing as a real out-of-pocket cost for the drug. In the U.S., obviously, it's private insurance, and so there falls to the consumer, and so the consumer has some kind of window into drug pricing. That kind of very important difference between what we see elsewhere and what we see in the U.S. Leads to these rebate structures and other things that can changed the way in which people look at drug pricing. So that's really the primary driver. It's just a completely different model than these single payer models from other countries.
But if you look across many years, despite this year compared to last year, the prices are falling. If you look on a wider time horizon, drug prices have been going up. What do you think is the main driver of prices over time rising significantly?
The reinvestment in the pact that we have in the pharmaceutical industry is you make profits, you take those profits, you put them into the development of innovative drugs. And while there's a period of time on patent that those drugs will be more expensive, in the end, the consumer gets better drugs. And over the longer term, the prices come down once generic competition hits the market. But the profit made between those two time points is reinvested to make new drugs. That's why we have such amazing new drugs that are in the market. We saw a personalized cancer vaccine today, for example, have very good data in melanoma. So now, there's a whole new era of drugs that are being ushered in, which if there wasn't the money from the profit available to be reinvested, you wouldn't have that. So that's really the pact and why the U.S. has been first to get these new drugs. And I think that model in general is a good model now, obviously, with runaway drug pricing, lack of transparency, which I know these are things that the government's trying to work on. There are difficulties with that. But that is really the root cause of this.
Okay, so Trump RX connects patients with discounted cash prices for certain drugs. What do you think about this?
I think it's great. As we know, there are an increasing percentage of patients who don't have insurance. When we talk about the patient population, and really everybody is potentially a patient, it's different people have different insurance, different options in insurance, and some people have no insurance. And when you have no insurance, the question is the money I spend every month on my healthcare less than what my insurance premiums would be, which, by the way, you don't just have insurance premiums, and you have out-of-pocket costs, you have minimum deductibles, et cetera, et cetera. So for the increasing number of people, since there have been changes to the Affordable Care Act, more and more people are not on insurance. And so for those people who need to buy drugs on a cash pay basis, it makes a whole lot of sense. Additionally, there are a lot of people who do have insurance, but the way the pricing structure is made, the out-of-pocket costs when you're on insurance are actually higher than a cash pay price. I think Mark Cuban has proved this, right? So with his model. And so there's now the arbitrage is being narrowed. And that's really what we're seeing in the different ways in which drugs are priced, in which that pricing is presented to the consumer, and the transparency associated with that. And that's really disrupting the market.
Do you think more competition could drive down prices? If you do think so, how do we increase competition in the pharmaceutical industry?
Well, I think that's really a tiered system. So, if you're talking about generics, obviously you can have unlimited competition. Unfortunately, sometimes in certain pockets of the market, there is not enough demand, i.e. not enough patients to make the drugs profitably. And so then you have some distortions when new entrants enter the market, et cetera. I think when you're talking about not generic drugs, so drugs that are still on patent, there you're talking about whether they are the first, second, or third, or fourth generation of a specific drug class, a mechanism of action, and then how much better is, Gen 2 than Gen 1 or Gen 3 than Gen 2. And is it more targeted? Do you have to fail Gen 2 before you move on to Gen 3? In the case of BTK inhibitors, for example, in certain cancers. So again, this is a very challenging area that I think we're painting a broad brush on. But when you look at it in general, innovation leads to new and higher pricing, which then competitors enter the market with better ways of doing it. Maybe you have more bioavailability, so you need lower dosing. Maybe you have extended release, so instead of needing it once a day, it's once a week or once a month. And then some of the things associated with that really change the cost of care. So while we're talking about drug pricing, you can't really dissociate that from the total cost of care. And that, I think, is really where we're going to end up having to go towards if we want to bend the cost of healthcare in the country.
Okay, just one last thing here. I want to ask you, is there any one part of the pharmaceutical industry overall, any specific part where if you changed it, it could have tangible effects on lowering costs for Americans? I mean, just in general, what more could be done to lower healthcare costs?
Well, I think if you think about the way of lowering healthcare costs, it's all about getting all the information at one time and finding people early, because treating people earlier typically results in them costing less over the long term. When you think about the healthcare spend in the country, 80+% is spent on chronic disease. Well, chronic disease obviously starts off with acute disease, a disease that has not been addressed or treated or adequately dealt with. And so, for example, you see this with COVID. There is now a crisis of long COVID. So if we had put more antiviral research, if we had understood that reducing your viral load, really getting rid of the virus, not coming back too early, studies show that if you do those things, that you get less long COVID. That's just a very acute example of something that's happened very recently, but it extends to many, many years in the past. So the idea that if you really address healthcare in the acute phase, you don't push through, but you actually treat your original problem, you'll end up with fewer problems down the road. I think that is really where you can bend the cost curve, and that requires better diagnostics, better access, and better immediate availability of the drugs that'll do that. So I think we just have to take a different approach to how we think about healthcare. And I think the longevity industry, the wellness industries, they're trying to get there. They're trying to tell people to stay healthy, to do things, a certain way. So I think the will is there, but I think we need a more programmatic way to drive these costs down.
Okay, sounds good. Good stuff today, Gerald. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
The Pentagon orders 30 U.S. universities to audit foreign infiltration. We examine the Chinese Communist Party's Century Oath playbook after this break. Stay tuned.
Appliances break down, home systems fail, which means I show up at everyone's door because I'm inevitable.
First up, the Andersons, who mistakenly think home insurance covers inevitable breakdowns.
Unfortunately, something expensive is about to happen.
Is it the heat, plumbing, electrical, AC, ductwork, wiring, garage door, oven?
But we already have homeowners insurance.
Home insurance only covers disasters. First American covers your everyday wear and tear, and if they can't repair it, they'll replace it.
So give First American a call. They've been protecting homeowners like you for over 40 years.
Next, Wilmer and Dolores Reed. 30 years under one roof means their home systems and appliances are ready to quit, and the major repair expense is inevitable.
I'm on your team, Dolores. First American coverage kicks in within 30 days. Today it's the AC, but heating could be next.
He's right, Dolores.
First American is the plan to protect all your plans. So please, get yourself covered.
Get the laptop, Wilmy.
And finally, meet Sonia, who used to worry about costly breakdowns until she started saving with First American.
I gotta send this thing to Fridge Heaven, okay?
Go ahead. First American has had my back for years, saved me hundreds. Just one call, and they send a pre-screened, qualified contractor. No chasing quotes.
Every home system and appliance fails. There's absolutely no avoiding it. But when the day comes, First American has you covered.
Look at the value. Plans start at about $1 a day, with no limit on the number of claims and 24/7 customer service.
I'm always going to show up. Home breakdowns are inevitable, but the expense, that's optional.
Call 800-917-5047 now to protect your home against inevitable replacements and repairs. You could save thousands with comprehensive coverage from First American. Plans start from about $1 a day. So call 800-917-5047 or visit FAHW.com.
We said we'd never give in to a meltdown.
Okay.
And we'd never babysit with a screen. We said we'd never let the toys take over.
Mariella!
Never leave the house looking, well, and never let them out of our sight. Skylar, come here. Cars get hot fast, and kids can be at risk. Before you leave the car, always stop, look, lock.
The Pentagon ordering several American universities to audit their infiltration from foreign adversaries. Chief among them is China. But how entrenched have them become in our nation's classrooms? NTD's Washington, Jack Bradley joins us now. Jack, what's the Pentagon looking for?
Sure, Don. Well, they're looking for foreign adversaries that are taking advantage of American research institutions. Now, this week, the Department of War notified 30 universities that they must audit their ties to foreign adversaries by the end of this month. The schools partner with these universities or research facilities in China, Russia, or Iran. And the Pentagon specifically named China's rebranded Confucius Institutes. These Confucius Institutes promote Chinese Communist Party sanctioned materials and CCP-approved teachers as well, going to teach in U.S. universities. Multiple outlets citing U.S. officials report that Harvard, MIT, Georgetown, and other top schools are among them. Congressman John Molinar, who's the chairman of the House Select Committee on the CCP, says that these partnerships pose undeniable national security risks. And some analysts say that infiltrating higher education is all part of the CCP's playbook, a tactic that it used a century ago to take power in China, now being repeated. Watch.
The Chinese Communist Party views infiltration of higher education as a key factor to overcome an enemy. What they did 100 years ago to the nationalists was first elite capture and simultaneously grassroots activism to move things in the direction of the Chinese Communist Party. Here we are 100 years later, and it looks like we're watching a replay of this play.
Several years ago, the Pentagon funded a class on advanced weaponry at a major Midwest university. An audit was later found to have that university teaching that class in Mandarin Chinese to Chinese nationals. Watch.
Department of Defense at the time had funded a class on advanced weaponry at a major Midwestern university. And when they walked in to do the spot check in the class, they were teaching the class in Mandarin to not U.S. students. So the program was ended. But it is still happening in different places in our country.
And last week, Congress reported that Harvard had 140 research partnerships with the Chinese military entities. That report alleges that Harvard prioritized financial ties over U.S. national security. Now, Harvard disputes that, saying the report mischaracterizes its commitment to national security. But Harvard received more than $600 million from China, and that's more than any other U.S. university. Chinese leaders also pay some American professors to educate their military, including sensitive technology. Stanford's former aerospace chairman reviewed U.S. military fighter jet research and then went on to train researchers at a Pentagon blacklisted Chinese defense university. Take a look.
American researchers, American federal, grant recipients, people working in some cases at the Pentagon, going over for these weird professorships or limited lecture series, which in this case, it was part of a, quote, expertise introduction program.
Journalist Natalie Winters there identifying dozens of researchers who worked on Pentagon-funded projects, then went to work for China's military. The House Select Committee on China also cites a former NSF, National Science Foundation official who oversaw $80 million in U.S. grants while also secretly working for a Chinese talent program and directing money from there to it. Now, he also now runs an AI center at a major Chinese military university. So, Don, to answer your question, quite entrenched indeed. Back to you.
All right, Jack, thank you for that. If you fly through Washington Dulles International Airport 8 years from now, you should expect some big changes. The board that oversees the airport is approving a $19.9 billion overhaul plan. This is the latest in a series of major infrastructure projects President Trump announced in and around Washington, D.C. The reconstruction of the airport's main terminal will have a budget of $6.2 billion. Another $3.75 billion will go towards building new underground tunnels and an automated passenger transportation system. That system is going to replace slow vehicles that currently transported passengers across the tarmac. The airport will also gain a new concourse. The projects are set to begin in late 2027 and be completed by 2034. This is one of the largest U.S. airport overhauls ever proposed. It will be funded largely through new municipal bonds. Airlines will also take on part of the cost. Amazon is bringing drone deliveries to hundreds of new communities. How quickly your order could arrive. More news after this break. Stay tuned.
An important message for Americans ages 50 to 85.
You seen that life insurance thing I got in the mail?
From Colonial Penn?
Yeah, that's it.
It's over there.
The recycle bin. I sent for this.
You're buying life insurance now? Have you been to the grocery store lately? The last thing we need is another bill.
That's exactly why we need life insurance. If something happens to either of us, those bills won't go away. Life insurance can help pay them. Funeral costs, too. Take a look at this. It costs pennies a day.
That's right. Rates for Colonial Penn Life Insurance start at $9.95 a month. That's 35 cents a day. And this is one bill you know will never go up. A lifetime rate lock guarantees it. Your rate is guaranteed, and so is your acceptance. That makes applying quick and easy. There are no medical questions, no physical exam. Since you can't be turned down, we don't ask about your health. And this is lifetime coverage. It never expires. Just pay your bill, and it's yours to keep for as long as you'd like.
This is the application. There's nothing to it. No health questions. What's this?
Free beneficiary planner. When we fill it out, all our important information and final wishes will be in one place.
The kids will appreciate that.
Call for more information and your free gift today. Read how easy it is to get life insurance from Colonial Penn. Even if you have pre-existing conditions or fixed income, it's easy and risk-free. Every policy we issue comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Call now to learn more. You have nothing to lose.
Call 1-800-293-7575 for free information and a free beneficiary planner. That's 1-800-293-7575. There's no risk or obligation. 1-800-293-7575. Call now.
This is how I keep my joints happy.
Omega XL is a powerful natural supplement backed by 40 years of clinical research. Take control of your pain, like Cynthia Bailey.
My knees in particular started giving me pain issues all the way back to my modeling days, from just running through airports, photo shoots. After taking Omega XL, I really started to notice how less stiff I was, especially my knees and my hip. Has Omega XL changed my life? Yes. I barely notice my joint pain anymore. Now I'm like literally sprinting through the airports. My secret is Omega XL.
Pick up the phone and call now to get this exclusive TV offer. Buy one Omega XL and we'll send you a second bottle absolutely free. You'll also get a free bottle of Vitamin XL D3. Buy one, get two free. A total value of over $115, all for just $49.95. You save more than 55% and shipping is free. Backed by a money-back guarantee and is not available in stores. Operators are standing by, so call now.
A safari helicopter crashed today in northern Kenya. The crash killing all 7 people on board, including 5 Americans. An executive with the Spanish language network Telemundo and the director of Ecuador's National Intelligence Service were among those killed. The helicopter crashed in a remote area in the foothills of a popular tourist destination. Local safari operator Tropic Air Kenya said it dispatched 2 of its helicopters to assist with search and rescue efforts. We'll have more on this story as it develops. Amazon Prime is expanding its air drone delivery service. The online retailer giant says nearly 500 cities and towns should have the service by the end of the year. Right now, less than 100 cities are serviced. Items have to be 5 pounds or less and fit inside a large shoebox that can be delivered by drone. Amazon says more than 60% of items ordered by customers fit into that category. The company says orders can arrive in as fast as 30 minutes, with most within 60 minutes after checking out. Prime members will be able to access the service for free on orders of $50 or more. Orders under $50 will cost $2.99 for delivery. Customers without a Prime membership will have to pay $4.99. It's been called the most important meal of the day. Whether you agree or not, breakfast is critical for students as it fuels the brain, boosts school focus, and provides the daily nutrients needed for development. And experts say parents can check all those boxes with ease, even on a busy morning. Here are some back-to-school breakfast ideas that may help.
Just getting out the door before school can be a tough task, but making sure your student can power through the day doesn't have to be hard.
What we want to make sure is that it has balance and some good protein in it to help get them to maybe the next snack or that next lunch.
Catherine Sherry with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta says if your child doesn't enjoy eating first thing in the morning, that's okay. The meal doesn't have to be large. She says to just give them some sort of protein and a carb that can help them kick off the school day.
That would be something like a whole wheat piece of toast with some peanut butter, maybe some hummus on there.
Other simple and effective healthy breakfast ideas: Greek yogurt, add berries and nuts or seeds. Sherry says you can also mix in peanut butter for another pop of protein, or a little honey or maple syrup. Just limit the overall sugar content.
A breakfast also doesn't just have to be breakfast food. It can be leftover dinner. We could have a turkey wrap. We could have a peanut butter and banana sandwich.
Sherry says breakfast pizzas can also be a hit. Whole wheat tortilla, a little sauce, maybe some leftover beans or chicken from the night before, and pop it in the oven to warm it up. Breakfast burritos are also good on the go. Pack them with eggs, veggies, avocado, and cheese. And she says to make them ahead of time.
Freeze them, and that's something quick and easy that we've made in bulk and we can have multiple times throughout the week.
A task force unit of U.S. Marshals serving a warrant were taken temporarily out of action by an unlikely foe, an unstable second-floor deck. Here's what happened.
Harrowing body cam video shows a task force of U.S. Marshals serving an arrest warrant in Missouri when a rickety deck gives way, causing the group to come crashing down to the ground. Another body camera captured an up-close look at the incident, which the Marshal's office says left members of the task force unit with injuries, but none described as life-threatening.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
The office said the suspect being pursued when the fall happened was not captured then, but was brought into custody later that day. In Illinois, it was falling glass that one campus police officer just narrowly avoided as storms battered buildings at Illinois State University. The video shows the officer hunkered down amid intense rain and wind when the glass comes crashing down just feet from his feet. The officer later shared the video featuring his understandably shocked expression and equally understandable gratitude to still be alive. Finally, one last fall was caught on camera, but this one was way less harrowing and way more hilarious. Employee Carter Sampson's day at Wisconsin's Gillis's Frozen Custard took a turn when he was caught on cam fumbling a vat of custard mix, resulting in one spectacular splatter.
I could just feel my hand slip, and as soon as it slipped, I don't remember anything after that other than being covered in the shake mix.
To no one's surprise, Sampson's sloppy slip-up is going viral, but Sampson told WISN he's all right with the internet infamy, saying sometimes you just gotta laugh and move on.
Thank you for watching NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back with more news, and NTD Evening News is at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific.